What's up, y'all? Can you guys see me? Hopefully this is working. All right. So here's the goal of this live today. I'll hop on lives sometimes whenever they pop up, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. And I noticed that a lot of people just sit and they wait for questions to come in. So I came up with some of my own questions until we start to get some questions from you guys. And if you stick around, you can see right here, boom, I got something that I'm going to give away today to roughly 150 people, if we can even get that many. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to start it off with this. Last night, I just want to point this out because I thought it was interesting. So out at the casino, so my buddy's about to have a wedding, and nice. Good to see you guys rolling in. Thanks for joining, by the way, y'all. This is my first live, so if it goes well and you guys like this, then we're gonna Arf. What's up, brother? Number one supporter right there. Ren, good to see you, dude. But yeah, if this live goes good, we'll keep doing them. You know, I like talking. Obviously, you guys can see from my YouTube videos. Might talk a little too much actually, but yeah, we'll just see. We're gonna roll with this, and maybe I can upgrade, get a little bit better mic. But hopefully, you guys can hear me and see me all right. So, anyways, at the casino last night, and I haven't been in the casino in like 2 years. A, I lost like $250, didn't win any money. And B, you look around and no one is smiling at the casino. And I just thought it was interesting that you have people that they go to the casino because I think that they don't believe in themselves and they don't see a way out making money any other way. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I post content, why I do what I do, is because if I can make this happen, I think anybody can make this happen, you know, and so it's not rocket science. We may underwrite some deals today. I'm going to answer questions. Drop the questions in the chat, by the way, y'all. But yeah, we're going to underwrite some deals, answer any questions that you guys have, and hopefully give you guys the confidence to go out and buy and sell some real estate. So, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting. The other thing is, it's kind of boring to gamble when, like for me, I buy and sell houses every day. So I kind of have that risk already. Which I think inherently it's good to have a little bit of risk. People like that, you know? And so for a lot, that's gambling. For me, that's buying and selling real estate. So hopefully you guys go and buy and sell some deals rather than gambling. And I'm not any good at it. So, all right, Elite. Main goal is to invest in real estate. Just got your 11th under. Brian, nice stuff, dude. That's awesome. That is really good. I've got some questions up here as well. Let's start with some of these until some of the other questions start rolling through, y'all. And then, like I said, ask any questions you guys have, or else I'm just going to spiel until some questions come through. So first question I've got here. Do you need a real estate license to buy or sell real estate? I get this one a lot. And I guess I've never actually answered this question. So you do not need a real estate license to buy or sell real estate, but there is a big benefit to having a real estate license. So if you are considered, and let me just give you guys a heads up, talk to your CPA, okay? Verify anything that I say, verify. What works for me in Oklahoma City may work for you, may not work for you. So just make sure you guys go and verify. It's always good to have a few different sources. But no, you don't need a real estate license to buy or sell real estate, but I think that there's a huge advantage to having a real estate license because you're taxed as a real estate professional. So like if I go flip a house and I make $30,000, that's taxed as active income, which is taxed at a lower rate rather than capital gains. And so if I wasn't a real estate professional, I just did this on the side and I want to flipped a property and made that $30,000, you're then taxed as capital gains. You have capital gains. And so there is an advantage to being a real estate professional, but just having your license doesn't make you a real estate professional. You have to put in a certain amount of time every year. So something worth looking into, especially if you guys are going to do a couple deals a year. The other thing is if you get any on-market deals, you get to keep your commission. You know, we bought a $500,000 building last year and I got $15,000 back at closing because I'm a real estate agent and it was on market deal. And we only brought like 50,000 down. So we really only brought, what is that, like $35,000 down. So a really good deal for $500,000 property that we then went and turned into a $1.2 million property. That's my industrial video, by the way. If you guys want to watch that, go check it out. It's on my page. It's like one of my first videos that I put out. All right, let's check these out. Coming in from Wisconsin. What's up, Nick? What's your first deal like, Isaac? Okay, my first deal. I was thinking about this the other day because I talk about my first deal being the duplex that I bought, $52,000 duplex, which I'll get into here in a second. But it wasn't really my true first deal. My true first deal I bought with my brother. We bought a 1.25 acre tract at a tax sale for $9,000 cash. We just went in. I think we brought $4,500 a piece. I think it was $9,000. My numbers may be a little off, y'all. It's been 5 years now. But yeah, we bought it at a tax sale. Went to the tax sale, bid it up, closed on it, and then we turned around and sold it 3 weeks later, cash for like $22,000. And so that was a pretty good deal. That was the first deal that we ever did. We bought that at the tax sale, which there are tax properties in all states. And so it's something worth looking into, kind of lucrative, but a lot of people know about it now. And a lot of people go to the tax auctions and whatnot. So it's kind of hard to get a deal, kind of like foreclosures or sheriff sales. But that was technically the first deal that I ever did. And then the first like true deal with like a bank loan and stuff was a duplex that we bought. It was in Shawnee, Oklahoma, $52,000. This was like a year after I started selling real estate. I had about $50K in the bank, and I got a bank to finance it. I only had 1 year tax returns and 1 year P&Ls, which is very uncommon to get a loan for. But I approached the bank, which this is something you guys should keep in mind, is you can negotiate with banks, especially if it's commercial financing. So I approached the bank and I said, hey, I have 50 grand in the bank. The acquisition's 50,000. Here are the numbers. Will you guys finance this deal? And they looked at it and they were like, well, even though there's risk involved, since he doesn't have 2 years of tax returns, he doesn't look as good of a borrower on paper as our typical borrower. Let's do it because he's got good reserves. And so I kind of like pulled my levers there. I had good reserves, had decent credit. I think I was 19 at the time, and that was the first deal that I ever bought. Damn, you guys are popping this morning. Okay, let's see what else we got. And I'm sorry if I missed some questions, y'all, but I'm gonna try and answer everything today. Okay, with first few properties, do you think it's smarter to rent out to slowly pay off or buy and flip? So most of my content is fix and flip deals right now, but let me tell you guys why. Up until I hold 8 million in my portfolio. I'll go over that here in a second. The name of the game is to hold real estate. Flipping properties is just a means to an end for me. It's a really good way of like making good cash, but then just my goal is to move that cash into more deals. And so if you guys see me going and flipping properties, it's not that I'm necessarily flipping properties, just put that money in my pocket and go buy some BS, I'm flipping those properties so I can go buy larger deals, and so anyways, fix and flip is good. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad deal to go do a fix and flip, but if you can hold real estate, that's the name of the game. BRRRR is a good method if done correctly, which I think most people don't BRRRR correctly. BRRRR is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. It's like bigger pockets. They kind of coined that. It's hard to do BRRRRs right now. Deals don't really cash flow that well. And so a lot of the flips that you guys see on my profile are deals that didn't pencil as a buy and hold like a buy and hold deal, but I didn't want to pass up on them just because they don't pencil as buy and hold. I'm still going to buy them. There's still money to be made, and I'll go and flip those. By the way, y'all, I know these look pretty cool. These are my blue light blocking glasses, though. I'm going to wear these. I get eye strain from all this like artificial light in here. So if I look stupid, I apologize. But anyways, if you can buy and hold, because the way that I tell people, I've built up a portfolio. I've got a little over 8 million in real estate now. And so if we just take average appreciation annually on $8 million in real estate, which it doesn't work the same because I've got some seller finance deals that I'm not going to get appreciation on and whatnot. But we'll just say for numbers sake, $8 million times, 3% average appreciation. That's $240,000 every year that I'm adding to my net worth with doing almost nothing. And so that's why buying and holding real estate is really good, is because you have a lot more leverage. You know, it's not truly passive. Like I can tell you guys, my rentals are a headache to deal with. It's not truly passive, but at the same time, there's a lot of leverage to knowing that you have a piggy bank, what I consider real estate, that you're getting appreciation on, you're getting depreciation on, you're getting a little bit of cash flow. And then worst case scenario, you're still getting your note paid down by the tenant. And so buying and holding is where it's at. All right, let's see. I'm going to keep rolling through here. Thanks for all the questions, y'all. I appreciate this. We got 70 people on. It's badass. By the way, if you guys missed it, I'm giving away 150 copies of something. I'll show you guys here in a little bit. Send you a question for the stream on Instagram. Let's go see what's up. I did post on my Instagram today. By the way, I respond to majority of DMs. So if you guys ever have a question, let me know. I got a question for the live. He's looking at, okay, so Gabe's looking at a deal in his hometown. It's the worst house on a pretty nice street. 2-bed, 1-bath, 900 square feet. Asking price is $99,000, down from $120,000. So there's some motivation from the seller there. House as it sits is definitely rental grade and would need about $15,000 in renovation for new kitchen, paint, floors, the usual. ARV would probably be $130,000, $140,000, and rent for $1,100 a month. What would be a fair offer if I want it to cash flow? Let's run through some preliminary numbers. I don't know what market this is in, so we're gonna have to make some guesses here, but let's use the whiteboard. Okay, so they're asking, let's see, can you guys see this? Okay, $99K. Rent, market rent is $1,100 a month. All right. He says ARV. Can you guys still see that? You guys can tell I'm not the best writer. ARV, we're going to say conservatively, is 130K. Okay, so your typical burn investor is going to want to be 80% loan to value of whatever the after repair value is or the note value. And so easiest way to get there is we're going to take 130 times 80%, 104,000, which would mean you would want to be all in for 104,000. I don't operate that way though. For me, I want to be all in 70% max loan to value. And really my average portfolio or across my portfolio is 65% loan to value. And so if we took 130 times 65%, that means all in for 84. And you say it needs cosmetics or whatever that is. What was it? 15K. I would buffer that. I would say that's probably roughly what my offer price would be. But the only thing to count there is you're going to have some holding costs. You're going to have buy side closing costs. You're going to have sell side closing costs. So you're going to have some stuff in there that you need to buffer. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be in any more than I'd say like 85 because you're still going to be in a little bit more with holding costs, buy side closing costs, and sell side closing costs. The other thing is it's really hard to rehab a property for only $15,000 right now. You know, on a house like that, 2-bed, 1-bath tells me a few things. They don't really build 2-bed, 1-baths anymore. So it's probably, I would assume 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in there build, which then leads me to believe it probably has cast iron pipes, which then leads me to believe it probably has copper pipes for supply lines. So cast iron for your drain lines, copper for your supply lines. Those are two things that I'd be looking at probably replacing. Copper is okay to keep, but cast iron, in my opinion, is not. And so that can increase your prices quite a bit. The roof, the HVAC, the foundation, I'd be looking at all the major mechanicals, making sure that you're solid there. But yeah, that's how I'd run quick numbers on that one. I mean, if you want to be super conservative, take, you know, if 104 is your all-in price right here, take 70% of this. That's 70%, and then subtract out your hold costs and then buy side closing costs. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah. And then sell side closing costs. It'd be really hard to go wrong if you ran your numbers like that. Anyways, good luck, brother. Let me know how that goes, Gabe. All right, we'll see what else you guys have. Okay, send a question. Okay. One of your recent shorts, you walked a property and said that you're going to keep it as a rental versus flipping. How did you decide which would be a flip and which would be a rental? I'm going to do a full video on that one, Thrifty. Thanks for watching that video, by the way. I will tell you right now, I'm sitting in a little bit of a rough spot. Like, to tell you guys the trajectory of this year, I came into this year and the goal was, let's get our cash reserves up to about 600K and let's go buy something large, which I am nearing that spot. But the problem is now it's October, pretty much. It's about to be October. I'm going to Maui next week. It's going to be October by the time I get back. And I now have to find something large to buy by the end of the year, which these larger deals typically take 60 or 90 days to close. And so I'm hedging against that by buying or holding just residential single family real estate. And so for me on that deal, here, one second, let me shut this. So for me on the single family deals, I can be all in on that right around 130,000 with rehab. It's in my backyard. It's a brick home. It's nice and solid. It's a 3, 1.5, which I like moving towards the 3-bed, 1.5 bath, because you have a tenant that wants to stay a little bit longer. With your 2-bed, 1 baths and even 3-bed, 1 baths, what's going to happen is the tenants are going to outgrow that, and then they're going to want to move, which means you're going to have an increased make ready, and you're going to have more make readies, and make readies kill cash flow. And so if you can get a tenant to stay for a couple years, your cash flow increases, because every time a tenant moves out, you're going to have a couple grand typically doing a make ready, even if it's just a whole bunch of little stuff. The deposits just don't cover a make ready anymore. And so that's a nice little property. Be all in for 130. It's worth 185. So I'm right at 70% loan to value. And then it's going to rent for about $1,450 a month, which really isn't great. But since it's in a nicer neighborhood, nicer area, it's a brick home, I think it's going to have good appreciation and everything will be replaced. And it will be good for my depreciation through a cost segregation. Let me know if you guys want me to talk about cost segregations. I don't want to bore you guys. We're going to talk about what y'all want to talk about, but cost segregations, I know, have been a question that I've been asked. But anyways, those are kind of the factors that I'm looking at. My loan to value is good. I'm going to have a little bit of cash flow, not much, but I'll be able to pull out all of my cash because it's 130,000 with my purchase and my rehab. So I'll pull out everything, but maybe like 5 or 7,000. And my cash on cash return should be around 22%. So I'll run legit numbers on that and show you guys what that looks like, hopefully in a video here coming up. One more thing I want to say before I move to the next question. Let me get you guys' thoughts on this. So we're heading to Maui, and my goal was I was going to record a video underwriting short-term rentals in Maui to see if they can actually cash flow or not. Let me know if you guys want to see a video like that. I feel like it would be fun for me to do. I kind of have a goal to own a place out there one day. I know that's controversial, but I do have a goal to own a place out there and hopefully in the Keys as well. But I think it'd be fun to record. I'm hooked up with a local agent. He seems pretty chill, and I was going to have him take us out to some properties, and we were going to underwrite them. So, okay. Chris, 19, recently passed 20K. Dude, that's awesome. Nice job on having 20K at 19. That's really cool. That's a lot of cash for the average 19-year-old, bro. All right, Brian, who do you use for insurance on rentals now that you have 11 State Farm said I'm capped? Brian, I can definitely hook you up. I use a commercial umbrella policy. It's called SCS, and super easy to use. I would say they're really good. They're ACV coverage, which let's talk about that real quick, y'all. I think this is good to know. Not a lot of people talk about insurance policies. I'll give you guys just the quick and dirty on this. So you have, sorry, Brian, they're RCV, replacement cost policies. RCV. Okay, so you have ACV, RCV. ACV policies suck. This is actual cash value. So what happens here, and I'm talking to you guys as insurance agents, but I'm just going to give you guys a quick and dirty rundown on this, is if you have a roof, and let's say the roof costs 10K. Well, let's say the roof's 8 years old. With an actual cash value policy, they're going to depreciate the roof over 8 years. So they're going to say, okay, well, if the roof costs $10,000 and it's 8 years old, we're going to give you pretty much like a 2K equivalent minus your deductible. Now, it works a little bit differently depending on your insurance, but I mean, this literally is if like just catastrophic events. If your house gets hit by a tornado or a hurricane or a fire, something like that. This is just going to cover your mortgage on the property. Replacement cost is actually going to say, okay, the roof costs 10K minus your deductible, we'll replace or we'll give you that value. And so replacement cost is what I use on all my properties. It does cost a little bit more, but there is an upside to replacement cost. For me, I had 4 properties that got hit by a tornado all in one go. And it was a huge headache because I had actual cash value across all of my properties. And I had to replace all the roofs and do everything out of pocket because insurance just didn't cover it. Insurance is kind of a scam either way. I talked to my insurance guy the other day because we just renewed and I'm paying close to $40,000 a year right now on insurance. And I asked him, I said, if a tornado rolls through, even though I've got replacement costs, if a tornado rolls through and it hits 6 of my roofs and I go try to make a claim on those 6 roofs, will the insurance carrier drop me? And he's like, no way to tell, dude. So it's like, why even carry the nice insurance? This is where I argue back and forth in my head. But why even carry the nice insurance that if something major happens to my portfolio, if I make a claim, they'll drop me either way. And so insurance is a bit of a scam. Oklahoma insurance, even worse. Same with like Florida. Any area where you guys have huge catastrophic events, your insurance costs are going to be higher. And it's just going to be a bit of a headache to get it done. So, but SES, Brian, is who I use. There is a carrier that I've been pricing out recently that does have replacement cost. It's called OBIE, OBIE. You guys can run your policies online. I'm starting to notice that the OBIE policies are actually a little bit more affordable than some of these other policies. Zion, he said, thanks for this. Of course, bro. Thanks for plugging in. Hey, it's Sunday morning at 10 a.m. or maybe even a little earlier, a little later. So I just appreciate you guys plugging in because, it's the weekend. So thanks for coming and watching some real estate. Once again, we get a giveaway in a little bit, so stick around. And I think based on the amount of people in here, everybody's going to get something. All right, let's see what else you guys have here. Who do you use? I'm running a little behind on the questions. I'm sorry. I can really squirrel when it comes to some of these questions. Eddie, what's up, brother? Good to see you, dude. Eddie's local here to Oklahoma City. Vetting a deal right now that might be good for you. If it checks out, I'll be sending it your way. Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. Oh, Eddie, sorry, bro. I thought you were in, and Oklahoma. Okay. You said Minnesota. I was like, what? Okay. What's the biggest mistake you've made flipping a house? How do you protect yourself from unexpected repair costs? Oh, dude, good question. I still go over budget. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that there are a lot of things that can go wrong when flipping a house. And so if you guys think about like the market that we're in right now, it's a bit of a soft market. Rates are high. A lot of the veterans that I talk to say this is the hardest market since 2008. And, after COVID, rates went to zero, supply went to zero, inventory went through the roof. You couldn't get a house, right? So we had like this elevated demand for a couple of years up until about 2023. Finally they raised rates. And then at that point, the houses are elevated 30% more in majority of markets than they were pre-COVID, but also rates are 7%, And so like to tell you guys the difference, but how much of a difference interest rates make, a 2% interest rate, and these are kind of here, I'll run it right here just so I'm not wrong, actually. I use loan calc, by the way, y'all. Boom, loan calc. Okay, so if we take a $500,000 loan on a 30-year note at 2% interest, look at that, 1848. Let's take that same amount at 7% interest, 3326, almost double. So not only did home prices increase, but also did the affordability. And so right now, it's tough because buyers are asking for a lot of closing costs. Buyers want a deal. On top of that, like when I go run my numbers, and nothing against wholesalers at all. I love wholesalers. I appreciate every wholesaler that brings me deals. But I can tell you guys, I'm probably not the favorite buyer here in Oklahoma City for a majority of wholesalers. And it's because a wholesaler is most of the time, not every wholesaler, but a lot of newer wholesalers run their numbers like this. They go, 150K. So like 150K ARV. And then, but really, here's the reality. As a buyer, my ARV, I need to be as conservative as possible. As a wholesaler, you want your ARV as inflated as possible because you can sell your deals a lot higher. So the wholesaler may say 150 ARV, but I'm like, well, it's really like 135. Because if I try and get 150, I'm going to be on market for 70 days. That's going to increase my holding costs, and I'm still going to have to pay buyers closing costs. And so like it's really 135, but they'll say, okay, 150, then they'll times this by 70% or 75%, depending on your market, depending on where you're at. And then they subtract out repairs, which I can tell you guys, if it's cosmetic, repairs always end like they just throw 30K out there. That seems to be, at least in Oklahoma City, that seems to be the average. They're like, oh, 30K in repairs. But I can tell you guys, my average deal that I remodel right now is not 30K. 30K is a light rehab for me. Really, we're closer to 40, 50K, or like the tornado house that I just finished. We spent 100 grand on that, which I do have a video closing. We're gonna make 98,000 tomorrow on that. Or I have a video coming that I'm gonna record today. We're about to make 98,000 tomorrow. Be my second largest flip I've ever done. But so anyways, to your point, which here I've squirreled a little bit, but where have I lost the most money? Or what's making it difficult is this market's just making it really difficult. You've got to be conservative. And I've got a few people that I mentor, and I tell them all the time, one of my basic fundamental principles is to underestimate ARV and overestimate rehab. So with every deal you underwrite, if you can underestimate ARV and overestimate rehab, even if you go a little bit higher on rehab, but you still make the numbers work because you're conservative on your ARV, then you should be good. And so a lot of times, yeah, I do run over budget, maybe 5K, maybe 10K. I don't ever go extremely above, but I'm not doubling my budget or anything like that, but it's easy to go 5K over, like I would say that's probably about the average, but I underestimate my ARV. And so I run my numbers conservatively. So instead of making 35,000, I make 30, or instead of making 30,000, I make 25, so I'm not necessarily losing money on any deals. But it's difficult for sure. And then I would say just the construction management piece and contractor management is pretty difficult, because not only do you need to know how to rehab a property, but you also need to know how to manage people. You need to know how to lead. And a lot of guys, what happens is they let their emotions get to them. And so if a contractor is running behind or somebody's fibbing, instead of having a conversation without getting emotional, they get emotional, they get pissed off. And then long story short, they piss the contractor off. The contractor goes, screw you. And they take their money and run, so there's a way you almost have to finagle people, for lack of better words. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. There's a way that you've got to handle people or lead people without pissing them off or letting your ego get in the way. And so the contractor piece is massive. I hear people all the time that are like, I can't keep good contractors. I can't keep good people around me. I keep having contractors walk off the jobs. And a lot of times I think that just boils down to you getting emotional and not being able to manage people, not being able to influence people, and so there's a way. Now you're just going to get screwed at some point. I mean, it just happens on the contractor side. Watch my 6-step contractor video as well, y'all, if you haven't, because that's like $50,000 worth of lessons in a 30-minute video or whatever. But it's just going to happen. You're going to get bent sideways sometimes. But the contractor management piece is really big. And then right now the market's just soft. So not only do you probably need to come in under comps, because days on market are increasing, months of inventory are increasing. So we're off, like in 2020, we had a whole lot of demand, a little bit of supply. Now we have a whole lot of supply, a little bit of demand. All those houses that those builders started in 2022, 2023, 2024, they're hitting the market today. So if you look at areas of Oklahoma City, we've got 6 months of inventory just on new construction. 60% of Piedmont or Yukon is new construction. That's why I'm not building new construction right now as well, just FYI. But yeah, I would say the contractor management piece, and then just be ready to pay buyers closing costs. It's super common. But if you look in a neighborhood and there's 15 homes on market and only 3 have sold in the last 90 days, that means that you've got a 1 in 15 chance roughly for your home to sell this month. And so you better be the best price and you better be the best looking as well. And be able to bring something to market like that's not just lipstick on a pig. So anyways, all right, let's see what else you guys have. Thanks for sticking around, y'all. We got 80 people in here. We're going too slow with cash out refis. Think I should diversify into scaling with seller finance. I love seller finance deals. I guess I'm just not as good at finding them because I don't find a ton that will 100% seller finance. I mean, I know Pace Morby and his crew do a lot of seller finance. They're just less common than typical deals. You know what I mean? And so, let me know why your birds are going slow, Riley. I'm curious. Like, I know you've got that 6-month seasoning, but you could also buy commercial financing and there is no seasoning period. That's one of the reasons why I buy commercial financing. I'm also going to explain, boom, right there here in a little bit once we finish up some of these. Okay. Favorite YouTube channel. Thanks, bro. Thank you, Brian. Cameron's faster than ChatGPT provide. Thank you, John. I appreciate you, dude. What did you do to save up capital for your first project? Okay, so this is where I did have a little bit of a leg up. I was able to stay with my fiance, or with my wife now. We've been together 7 years, and her family a year after we graduated to be able to save up capital. So I didn't buy anything fancy. We lived super cheap, and I literally just worked until we saved up about 50 grand. But thankfully, you know, as a real estate agent, I just got really lucky and entered the market at a really good time where it was just going up. There was a whole lot of demand. And so I was able to sell. I mean, I was able to make 50, 60,000 in the matter of like 5 months, you know, 5 or 6 months. So we just did a lot of deals. It's been hard to find deals on market. Should I drive for dollars, skip trace? 100%, dude. Like the first 10 deals that I bought were from driving for dollars. I really didn't buy from wholesalers because I couldn't afford the pricing that they wanted. You know, I didn't know my numbers good enough to compete with these larger buyers. So those first few deals are going to be, they're going to be the most difficult for sure. But if you stick with it and just get after it, you know, I always like to think of things like Hormozy talks about this. If you do something for a long enough time horizon and you don't quit, it's almost unreasonable to say that it won't happen. You know, so I think about that in terms of like, can I make this work? You know, when I thought about posting on YouTube, I thought, you know, do I think I can grow on YouTube? Like, is it reasonable to say that I can grow on YouTube? And I just thought about it. I was like, okay, well, let's just commit to posting for the next 7 years. And surely at some point I'll have a video take off, you know, or whatever that looks like. So if you're going to go for that, blessed homies, I would just say commit to it, go after it, and don't get shiny object syndrome, because what happens is people will start here, boom, with driving for dollars. And then they're like, okay, I need PPC, or I need to do direct mail, or they see an ad and the ad says you need an AI caller, yada, yada, yada. It all works. I've closed deals with majority of the different ways that you can close direct to seller, or I have buddies that have closed direct to seller through direct mail, PPC, driving for dollars, meta ads, whatever it looks like. But you have to go after it for a long enough time horizon with the thought that you're not going to quit until it works, you know? And so that'd be my recommendation there, really. Have you considered building new construction, selling it for profit? I just kind of answered that one, brother. No, not right now. I don't really want to compete with new construction. I don't want to compete with the big builders because they're offering massive discounts. DR Horton, Lennar, they're offering interest rate buy downs into the 3s. And so how do you compete with that? You know, margins on new construction aren't massive, 20, 25%. I do know some guys doing pretty well with new construction here in the city, but I don't want to get caught holding the bag on new construction. So for me, the risk doesn't outweigh the reward. What do you feel like wholesalers get wrong when locking up properties? How do you wish wholesalers understood from a fix and flip perspective? They don't understand risk. I would say majority don't. They don't quite understand how to run numbers. You know, if you're looking at a property and it was built in 1960 and the roof's 8 years old and, you know, it needs cosmetics, they're going to say, hey, this is a 20K rehab. But what they're not thinking of is the last 4 flips that I sold that had a roof that was 8 years old or older. the buyers requested to be replaced because it's a 3-tab shingle or because insurance purposes. And this is going to vary per market, but that, for me, I'm like, okay, well, it may be 8 years old, may look fine from the ground, but has anybody gotten on the roof and seen if it has hail hits? Because you can't necessarily see hail hits depending on the pitch of the roof from the ground, and so just because a roof looks good on the ground doesn't mean it's going to look good from above. And so they don't take that into effect. Or if they're pitching me a deal that's 45 minutes outside the city, and they're trying to pitch it at an 80% less repairs, they don't understand there's less buyers in those areas. And so for me to take on more risk, I need more upside. So I'm not going to take an 80% less repairs deal, or I'm not going to take a 70% less repairs deal. And so, opportunity cost is another big one. I think about opportunity cost in everything that I do. And so if I'm looking at a burnout that's going to take 8 months to rehab, and they're pitching at a 70% less repairs deal, for me, that's not worth it, because it's like, look, that's an 8-month rehab. The opportunity cost of buying that versus me going and buying something that's a cosmetic rehab that's still 70% less repairs doesn't make sense. It may still make money, but my velocity of money is not there, And so for me, it just makes more sense to go buy the deal that's a cosmetic rehab. So that's kind of what the wholesalers, I think, are missing a lot of times. And then they don't understand buy side closing costs, sell side closing costs, and holding costs. I never see wholesalers take that into account. So anyways, that's my thoughts. But once again, I love wholesalers. I appreciate every wholesaler that brings me deals. And I always just try and educate, instead of being like, screw you, bro, you don't know how to run numbers. It's like, hey, look, as an investor, this is how I'm running my numbers. This is why I'm coming in where I'm coming in rather than what the other buyers are at. Good questions. At what point would you suggest hiring a team, and what job would you hire for first? So to tell you guys my trajectory, I grew up in a mobile home, and then I moved in with my mom, and then I helped her move drugs across the United States because I didn't know better. I was 15. And then she went to prison when I was 17, and I moved in with my wife and her parents. And so I did not have somebody to co-sign for a house for me. I didn't have somebody that was giving me a bunch of cash. And so if I can do it, you guys can too. And this is the trajectory that I would recommend. You guys start with just understanding real estate. You've got to pay your ignorance debt down. I see this a lot from guys where they're like, well, I don't want to sell real estate because I want to go and flip properties. But no offense, bro, but you're 18, you have no money. So you got to start somewhere. There's a reason why I'm in this position, and majority of other 24-year-olds aren't. It's not because I'm smarter by any means. It's just because I dogged out and I quote unquote suffered a little bit longer on doing the work rather than a lot of these other guys, And so instead of partying, I was out selling deals. And so you got to look at it that way. Like, before you hire a team, you really need to know how to manage and how to lead, and culture is really important as well. Anybody can go and provide leads, but if you don't have the culture behind it, then there's no point in having a team. I grew a team in 2022 to 8 agents, and then I went back to 0 because I didn't know how to lead. I didn't know how to teach, and I didn't know the culture behind a team as well. Now my team, we've got 9 agents. They're badasses. They're probably not even on here because they hear me talk too much. They're probably tired of hearing me. They don't want to hear me on a Sunday morning. But, we've got a really tight knit culture. The group chat pops off. Love the group chat. Yesterday we were out playing volleyball, but the culture comes first. And, you can teach somebody about real estate, teach somebody sales, but if they don't yearn for it, if they don't have the drive for it, then they're not the right people, And so you need to have an influx of cash and not enough time before you go and start building a team. So for me, it was like, okay, boom, I'm selling $1.5 million in real estate. I think I was bringing home maybe $15,000 a month as a solo agent. That's when I hired a transaction coordinator. And then I'm still bringing $15,000 a home as a solo agent. We're living in an $80,000 house. And instead of going like, oh, I deserve a nicer home or I deserve a nice truck, I didn't do that. I went and hired an assistant, which was $3,000 a month, which we're in Oklahoma City, so it's 3,000 plus commissions. And so then I had the assistant, then I had the transaction coordinator. Then I grew even more because I could delegate at that point, which delegating's tough, where I see a lot of people go wrong is they hire somebody and they delegate, but they delegate poorly, and then they fire them because they're like, they're not doing their job right. But if I delegate something to my team and it's not done correctly, I ask myself first, did I delegate this correctly? Then I ask them, where did I go wrong because this wasn't done correctly? And they're going to tell me, sorry, I dropped the ball. I knew what to do. Or they're going to tell me, well, I didn't quite understand this. And so that, like, delegating was one of the biggest pieces that I had to learn, but it's also being a leader. You know, you can either lead through praise or you can lead through fear. And I'm not a leader that leads through fear. That's like, I'm going to fire you if you don't do this, or, you know what I mean? I lead through, hey, this is what I need done. Are you able to do this? Or this is, I have people bought into the culture, you know, and so I don't lead through fear. I think those types of guys don't do well, and then your people are just looking for other opportunities. And then at the end of the day, you know, I think about my legacy, and like when I'm 80 years old on my deathbed, maybe I'll be 100, who knows, whatever that point is in my life, I don't want to look back and think, damn, all I did was make money for myself. Making money for others and allowing myself to elevate others is super important to me as well. Anyways, Dave, that was a little drawn out. I would say when you have more money than time, then you start hiring, and you hire for your weaknesses first. And so you hire where you need to fill gaps. And really, actually, I should say you hire where you can delegate non-income producing activities so you can focus on income producing activities. So for me, I'm not the one managing our insurance, our utilities, because it's not an income producing activities. I don't manage our rentals because it's not an income producing activity. I manage the content. I manage the deal flow. I make sure that we get deals in the pipeline, and then I manage the team as well. And so I would say, I guess I'm just a manager at this point. So what's your mentorship program? It's not fully done, brother. I've only got a few people that I mentor currently. If you want more information, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Do you ever go after pre-foreclosure or probate leads? How do you approach them and navigate the extra legalities? I personally don't. I think there's more leverage in me creating relationships and posting content with wholesalers, investors, realtors in my market that bring me deals. And so I don't do a whole lot of direct to seller marketing, but my team does. So my team does a lot of cold calling, and then we just get buyers that need to sell their house. And then we buy wholesale deals through those leads as well. But a lot of my deals come from other agents, other wholesalers, and other investors. And so pre-foreclosure and probate leads, I mean, obviously highly motivated leads, but I do know that here in my market, at least, the average pre-foreclosure lead is getting hit by like 4 or 5 different people, you know, so they're pretty saturated. Nothing is ever too saturated though. So I don't want it to come off that way. Like if you want to go after pre-foreclosure leads, you can make it happen. I know guys that are very successful with it, but I just don't want that type of competition. The way I lead generate is just different, you know, and so what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. All right, y'all, give me 1 second. I'm gonna take a quick drink of my coffee. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Thanks again for joining in. Once again, we got a giveaway here in a little bit. How long do you guys want me to go? We've been going for 43 minutes. I have nothing. I'm not on any time constraints. So, I mean, I guess if we maintain, you know, we got 90 people on here. If we maintain this, then I'll keep going. Let's see what else we got. Damn, I missed a lot of questions, y'all. Sorry. Cameron is fast. Okay. Do you ever go? Okay. I'm closing on my first investment on the 25th. 18-year-olds looking to burr. Heck yeah, Elijah. Nice stuff, dude. That's awesome. 18, buying your first deal. What is one mindset shift you've had since then that has been valuable? I'm going to tell you guys about my favorite mindset shift right here. Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And I think that this is an issue in our society right now. At least for me personally, I think so. I'll put my glasses back on so I don't get this eye strain. Okay, so a lot of people are extrinsically motivated, whether they're young like we are or like I am, or whether they're older as well. I see it every day, you know, and I was making a joke to my wife this morning. I told her, I said, do you know how to tell if someone's got a Lamborghini? At least I thought this was kind of funny. I said, they'll tell you about it. And so It's because, and nothing against that at all, by the way. If you got a Lamborghini, you got a nice vehicle, there's nothing wrong with that one bit. But I thought it was just kind of funny because a lot of people, they get their dopamine, they get their happiness from extrinsic motivations. I've got a guy on my Facebook that I've got two guys in particular, and I'm not talking poorly upon them, but I do try and learn from others. And every chance they get, one of the guys posts about his Lamborghini every chance he gets, it's probably 2 or 3 times a week. The other guy posts about his C8 Corvette 3 or 4 times a week. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that just shows me that they lean probably, and this may not be true, but they lean a little more towards extrinsic motivation. They're more motivated by showing people their nice things and kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And this is what I've got. And I could be totally wrong here. They may just truly enjoy their Lamborghini or their C8 Corvette. And there's not anything inherently wrong with having either of those, or having nice things, having a nice house. I strive to have nice things as well, and I want a really nice house, but I'm not necessarily that motivated because I realize that my house now, I live in a fairly nice house, is probably going to make me the same amount happy whether I live there or whether I live in $1 million house. The difference is if I go and move to $1 million house, I'm going to have an elevated dopamine hit. And it may last for a year. It may last for 2 years before I fall back to a baseline. And this is what I've noticed with just wealthy people in general, that when you buy something new, whether it's shoes, whether it's a car, whether it's a house, your dopamine goes here, and then it may stay elevated, but it's going to fall back to a baseline. And it's kind of like medicine. The more medicine that you take, the more that you need, because you're building up antibodies to it. I think it's the same thing if you get addicted to this extrinsic feedback loop, is that you buy nice shoes and then you're like, boom, dopamine hit. And then you fall back to a baseline, and then you're like, oh, well, now I need to go buy a nice shirt, and then boom, dopamine hit. And then you fall back to a baseline. Some people get stuck in this like negative feedback loop where their happiness is almost contingent upon them buying things, extrinsic things, And so once again, there's nothing wrong with buying nice things. I think that everybody should strive to have nice stuff. But at some point, I think it's better to have your happiness and your dopamine off of doing the work, which is what I think humans in general are meant to do, is doing hard things. And then also relationships and I'm drawing a blank. Relationships, doing the hard work, and then experiences as well. Because I've never been happier than when I can take my family or I can take my team on a nice vacation and we have a nice experience and it's a really good time all around. And I realized this, like, I don't know if this is just a morbid thought or what, but if my wife was to die tomorrow, or anybody around me that I love, if they were to die tomorrow, I would trade everything extrinsically to get that back. Same thing goes with, I would say I'm a healthy male. I've got all my hands. I can do whatever I want in essence, and if I came upon sickness, I would trade everything just to be happy again, to be able to be healthy again. And so that's why it's like, well, extrinsically, the money, the nice things, like they're all good, but it's better not to lean too much to one side. I would rather lean more towards intrinsic motivation, or more intrinsically motivated, and relationships, experiences, self-motivation, doing the work makes me happier than going and buying something nice. It's kind of like this live here. You know what I mean? I enjoy this stuff. I enjoy it. You guys are on here. I'm able to share, whatever my opinion. Like, this stuff makes me happy, And so I would say, as a young guy, try to lean towards more intrinsic motivation. You'll be more motivated than a guy that's extrinsically motivated. If I'm doing this work and I'm making money, and if I'm doing this because I truly love the work and because I like elevating people, I like leading a team, and I just love what I do, I don't have to go and find motivation. A lot of people are like, I need to be motivated. I need to go get motivated. I don't have that problem. I'm just motivated. I wake up, I'm ready to go most days. Of course, I do have days where it's like, damn, I feel a little burnt today. But for the most part, I'm pretty rejuvenated. So anyways, that'd be my biggest thought there, brother. How do you get your leads? So content, I get a lot of leads from content now. And then we run social media ads as well. I've spent about 50, 60,000 a year on social media ads, mainly Meta. Okay, do you dissolve the LLC and account for each flip when done? And how do you structure your properties for an LLC and checking? So I'm more so United Gaming. I'm more so towards a profit first structure on my bank accounts, but it's messy right now. I'll be upfront with you guys. That's why I've not done like a full financial, like how I set everything up. I know how I want everything set up, but it's also just, when you're flipping properties and stuff, it gets a little messy. But Profit First, great book, really good way to run your financials and run your guys' bank accounts. I'd highly recommend it. And then do I dissolve? I don't have a separate LLC for every deal that I flip. I have an active LLC that I flip majority of my deals under. I think that, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, but I think it's very easy to pierce the corporate structure or whatever if you get sued. And so I guess that's just a risk that I take. But I also do good work. I keep things above board. I don't do anything shady. And so I don't necessarily have a fear of like getting sued. If it happens, then it happens. But I also know that at the end of the day, I'm not doing shady things. So I'm not necessarily concerned. But you guys know the old story. If you haven't been sued, then you will get sued at some point. Caitlin, what up, dude? Okay, on your single family rentals, how much percentage do you count for vacancy, capex, repairs, and all-in expenses? Okay, you ready for this? Vacancy, I calculate 7% of gross rent for vacancy. Every market's going to be a little bit different, so do some research in your market and see what vacancy is there. 7% is pretty good gauge, though. And also, not only every market will be different, but every price range will be different as well. And so obviously vacancy on $1 million house is going to be probably a little bit higher than vacancy on your average price point in your market. CapEx, that one's tough. I usually try and do 10% of gross rents, but also, when you get to the lower end priced homes, then 10% is really not that much. So 10% or $100, as long as I've gone through and I've updated all the major mechanicals, I feel like that's pretty good to put aside for reserves. And then maintenance, I calculate $50 a door per month. And then lastly, property management, I calculate $25 a door because I have a virtual assistant that does all of our in-house property management. So, but typical property management is 8 to 12% if you hire an actual property manager. What contract do you use when wholesaling in OKC? Is it standard OREC? This guy knows what he's talking about. OREC stands for Oklahoma Real Estate Commission Purchase Contract. I use the OREC contract because, once again, if I ever get sued, I want them to at least know I'm a realtor. I use a standard contract that's unbiased to me and unbiased to the seller. And I've never had any issues with it either. Phoenix investor buying about a deal a month right now. Let's go. That's awesome, dude. You're probably buying as much real estate as I am because Phoenix real estate's high, so I bet you're spending $500 to $700 a month. On a scale to 3 to 4, can you share your day-to-day process for analyzing and making enough offers to buy the number you want? Yes. Dude, when you analyze enough deals, you can almost run the numbers in your head. And so I would just say, analyze more deals, Q. I think that if that's how you say your name, analyze more deals, because you get to a point where you can almost just run them in your head for a rough, dirty estimate, send the offer in. If they're like, yeah, we can get around that number, then boom, you go walk the deal from there. I'm typically not going to walk a deal unless I'm close to where I think I need to be on it, or unless I'm recording content, because then that's leverage for me. Newbies in the chat. There's another YouTuber. I think the channel is From the Ground Up or Ground Up. His channel is about a year old. He's documenting from the very start, tons of newbie info. Nice, dude. Nice, thrifty. Appreciate that. Do you pay upfront or monthly insurance? I pay monthly because if I had to pay $40K upfront, I would not be super happy about that. But I do pay my taxes annually, which are coming up, which is going to be a real headache because I think we're going to have probably a $35,000 to $40,000 tax bill for property taxes. That's not income taxes or federal taxes. That's just property taxes. What's your method for managing your crews and making sure they're sticking to timelines, in-house guys specifically? Okay, so we're still refining this because I'm new to the in-house crew model. We're just now We're just now kind of figuring it out, but pretty much we walk the deal, we get a scope of work. And then I put together the timeline because I'm pretty decent with timelines. Then we get a hold of everybody. We let them know weekly, hey, week 1, we're doing demo. Week 2, we're doing sheetrock. Week 3, we're doing this, and then so on and so forth. And so that way they know what the timeframes are. And then from there, I have them check in every morning. Each of them has to tell me what their goal is for the day, and each of them has to send me what they did for the day at the end of the day through Company Cam, which is a software that we use. And so every day I know, okay, what their goal was and then what they're doing. And so that way I can keep tabs. And I have my whole team do that, by the way. My project manager, my property manager, my assistant, and then now all of our crew as well. I have them send me what their plan of action is for the day. I have them line out in order, because ultimately business is strategy, and so if you're not strategizing, then you're not efficient, and so obviously I have a lot of competition around Oklahoma City, so I want us to have the best strategy. And so you have to teach your team that. And so for me, I'm teaching my team to think clearly, take some time in the morning to strategize, and then go do the work. And a lot of people don't think about this. One of my favorite analogies is 2 guys go, this is a little silly, but my favorite analogy is 2 guys go to chop down a tree. One guy goes and just starts chopping, and it takes him 8 hours. The other guy spends 30 minutes and sharpens his axe, and he chops it down in 2. And so I think about that a lot, because a lot of people are just going out there and they're doing the work. But I make work less than a guy that's working twice as much as me, but make twice as much money as him, because I have strategy and he doesn't, and he's just going and throwing stuff at the wall. And so anyways, that's kind of my the way that I manage my crew. And then we're also implementing incentives. So if we have a 6-week project and they finish in 5 weeks, they're going to get their weekly rate. They're going to get half of it for every week they finish on time, if that makes sense. So that way they're incentivized and they want to win as well. And everybody's bought in. You got to buy everybody in. Almost everybody on my team has some sort of incentive, whether my assistant, my project manager, my property manager has incentives with, if they do something, there's incentives involved. Okay, what else we got here, y'all? Newbies in the chat. This is Real Estate Church. That's pretty funny, Nick. Thanks, dude. Just hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yes, Brian, that's good. Blue light glasses for the win. I know I got to put these on because I'm going to get this eye strain. By the way, you guys should look into some blue light blocking glasses. These are like big win. These are the double blue light as well. That's why they're this color. How would you recommend getting started investing if you're going in with 150 to 200,000 liquid for beginner with flips or rentals? If you got that much liquid, I would say you look at buying and holding real estate simply. Let me know what market you're in, what your average price point is, and I give you some more thoughts there as well. Worst contractor story. I mean, I've gotten taken for, I got my last contractor, I think this was last November, I got taken for 12 grand. And I didn't sue him, by the way, y'all, because I realized that with my dollar per hour right now, the time involved with going and suing the guy, I was going to lose more money rather than just go make more money, And so I put my ego to the side and said, screw it. And I just moved on. But I don't know. I've got so many. I mean, that was probably the worst one. I got taken for 12 straight across. The dude just took my money. And then I've also had just bad contractors that I've hired. But, I don't quit. And if you don't quit, you can't fail. If I would have quit, then I would have failed way back when with those contractors. Okay, let me take a sip of my coffee, y'all, real quick. I feel like I've been talking for a second now. Still got 96 people in here. All right, let's keep rolling. Donnie Wilson, Bullhead, Arizona, 2 flips in escrow, selling using the same method. Let's go, Donnie. Always like to see the guys that are actively doing deals. It's cool that you guys watch the content. I know I've got some bigger hitters than me, much bigger than me. I'm just a small dog that are doing quite a few deals. So it's cool anytime I can see those veterans. Have you ever flipped a tax deed or tax lien property? So I talked about that at the very beginning of this video or this live or whatever. But yes, I have flipped a a property from tax auction with my brother. Never tax lien. Oklahoma's not a tax lien state, as far as I know of. I'm not super well versed, but one of my team members, Colton, is, and so I could always bring him on to talk more about it. He's about to lock some lots up, actually. Rob, just sent you a message on Facebook. Got a deal to send you. Let's go, dude. Okay. Hopefully I'm not missing any messages here, y'all. Let's see. I don't think I am, though. If I missed your message, just send it again. Are you married? I am, Rigo. I am married. I've been with my wife since before I had money. I mean, she was there for me when my mom went to prison. So I know it's weird to be married at 24, but I don't regret it. I like it. It's cool doing life with someone, and my wife is super chill. Could not ask for a better lady by my side. I wouldn't be as successful as I am. I know I'm the front runner. I'm the guy here, but she's been by my side from literally my mom went to prison. I had nothing to, now we've built this portfolio. And so she supported me through all of that, and I love her. So underestimate ARV, overestimate repairs, win-win. Yes, dude. That's what I was meaning to say. If I said that wrong, y'all, that's underestimate ARV, overestimate repairs. Hopefully I didn't say that backwards earlier, but that is what I meant. Hormozy's great. Got 2 of his books. Really good quote. Yes, dude. Are you married? What do you look for in a neighborhood before investing? How do you handle a flip if the market slows down mid-project? Good question, Elite. Okay, so I think that it's good to understand macroeconomics, which is just a fancy way of saying what's happening in your local market and what's happening nationally as well. Every market's affected differently. Like areas that are affected heavy right now is like Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas. They're getting hit pretty hard because the technology sector got hit really hard, lots of layoffs. And so their home prices are plummeting in those areas. Oklahoma City's always been pretty recession proof. And the reason why is we have a lot of stable industry. So when I'm looking at a market to buy in, which thankfully I just know my markets, Oklahoma City Metro is where I buy. Oklahoma City and the metro areas, all suburbs. We've got really good industry. We've got Paycom, multi-billion-dollar industry. We've got Hobby Lobby, multi-billion-dollar industry. We have Amazon, multi-billion-dollar industry. Then we have Tinker Air Force Base, not going anywhere. It's the government. And so all of these places employ a lot of people, and so we're not heavily on oil and gas anymore. We also have a really heavy healthcare sector here in Oklahoma City. And obviously, we all know healthcare is not going anywhere. We're not going to have any issues with healthcare now or in the future, unfortunately. it's just here to stay. And so we have a huge healthcare industry. And so, that's what I'm looking for in a market. What I'm not looking for is, say, for example, the Florida Keys. One of the reasons why I have not bought a place down there is, even though I kind of want to, that the economics just don't make sense right now. Home prices are huge. They're through the roof, and their only sector is tourism. Tourism, it has high highs and has low lows, and so I don't want an area that swings massively one way or the other. I want an area that's stable, and that's what I love about Oklahoma City. There's a ton of markets around the United States, they're just like Oklahoma City. I feel like Bentonville, Arkansas is another one. Parts of Dallas, maybe, so you just got to find a market and make sure that there's really good industry. Shawnee, Oklahoma is 45 minutes from Oklahoma City, but there's a bunch of here, I'll show you guys, I'll draw it out here. So you have Shawnee right here. And then you have all these little sub-markets that feed into Shawnee for work, because there's a lot of mills and blue collar work in Shawnee. And so for me, I'm comfortable investing in Shawnee because I know that there's a lot of industry in Shawnee, and a lot of markets of these little sub-markets that feed into Shawnee as well, because they're so small. And so, and if you look at the population growth of Shawnee, Oklahoma, it's been about 31,000. It's not gone up. It's not gone down over the last 30 years. So very stable market. So anyways, that's what I'm looking for. Do you manage your properties or have a property manager? We self-manage 58 units in-house, but I do have virtual assistant, and then I've got my assistant, and I've got my project manager. So we've got a team that manages for us. But I still have to get involved sometimes. So best tips to get five plus flips at a time. Look, Caleb, let me know why you want 5+ flips at a time. Because I can tell you having 5+ flips at a time is a major headache. Not that I wouldn't recommend it. I'm now at around 8 to 10 projects at any time, a few sitting, a few moving, a few under contract, a few on market. But I've dialed back. We're only rehabbing maybe 2 or 3 at a time. Because the problem is when you get 5 at a time, you're cutting. I mean, literally, when I had that 17 projects back in June, I was literally cutting $20,000 a week in payroll checks. And then I was paying off an Amex card close to $100,000 every single month. And it's just stressful. I mean, I don't necessarily want that, And so I think there's other ways to make that much money. And ultimately, if you buy 5 a month, I would say you're gonna make more money in the long term if you can just flip a couple and then keep the rest. So I don't know, but let me know why, because there's no right or wrong here, So maybe you would want to handle 5 rehabs at a time and you're comfortable with it. But even if you're getting bank money, there's a lot of management. I mean, it takes a lot of time to be able to get there and be able to manage it correctly, because there's so many moving pieces at once. There's so much going wrong at once every day that it's just a real headache. All right, let's see what else we got. 24-hour stream. Y'all are crazy. We're not hitting a 24-hour stream here, but I'm still going strong. As long as we retain this 90 or so people, then let's keep rocking. All right. How do you decide? What do you do if a house you buy sits on the market for longer than expected? It's a good question, Lutz. Typically, you gotta reduce the price. I mean, it usually comes down to the product or the price. But if you're sitting on the market for too long, you reduce the price, or maybe you look at seller financing the deal, or maybe you look at renting the deal. But other than that, I mean, the price just is going to have to come down. But seller financing might be a good extra exit strategy to get out of a deal and sell it a little bit more of a premium if it's sitting on market. Offer some incentives as well. Make sure that you guys are asking for feedback. If somebody shows your listing, if you've got a realtor or you are the realtor, why didn't they like it? What didn't they like about it? Maybe they were like, well, we didn't like how it didn't have a fence, but the house next door did. Maybe offer a fence. I get creative. We just put a fence on one because that's what the buyers wanted. I was like, that's fine. It was like $3,000 on a $320,000 house. Who cares at that point? Let's just get it sold. Okay, what advice would you give for renovating a house as a rental that you own and is fully paid off but requires a big amount of capital investment? Okay, really good question. Once in future, I'm always thinking about cash on cash return. And so people ask, like, why don't you just use your own cash? Well, if I use my own cash, the cash on cash returns are much lower. Take these 2 examples. I buy a house, and I know you guys like the visuals here. Let me stand up for a second. Let's write this down. So I'm going to give you guys 2 examples. One has a much higher cash on cash return and velocity of money than the other. Okay, $100,000 house. You get a bank loan for 20% down, and then they fund $50K in rehab, right? And so 20% down, and then you've got hold costs, holdco, and we'll just say a flat $6K. All right, so we'll say total out of pocket on this deal is $26K. You buy it, you flip it, you make $25K. It's 100% cash on cash return pretty much, right? Okay, let's use the same numbers, same example. You buy a $100,000 house cash, you put $50,000 in cash into it, then you make $25K. This is not a very good cash on cash return. That's like, I don't know, less than 20% though. And so for me, I'm always thinking about what my cash on cash return is, because if I can buy this instead of using cash, if I can just use a loan on it because I'm comfortable with that and I'm comfortable with debt. I'm definitely not your Dave Ramsey guy, which nothing wrong with him. I think he serves a purpose. But if I'm comfortable with debt, I'm going to make a way higher return. I'll just buy, another one of these instead. And so I would say I would look at doing a cash out refi potentially on that once in future. Just don't over leverage your loan to value. If you know it's worth $150,000, If you only want to cash out 50, you only have to cash out 50. You don't have to cash out 70% or 80% of it. You can just cash out what you're comfortable with pulling out. But run your cash on cash returns and see what they look like. But for me, it makes more sense to leverage up and buy more deals because I get more depreciation, more appreciation, and I can write off more on my taxes. All right. What may shut this stream down, y'all, is I got a small bladder. I may have to pee in a little bit, but let's keep rolling. Do you think hiring my childhood best friend as my project manager is a bad idea? I mean, I'll be upfront. I hired my childhood best friend as my project manager. It's definitely changed the flow of our relationship a little bit, but I mean, we're still close. We went out to the casino last night. You have to be willing to switch out of hats and you have to be willing to have tough conversations. So I've had to sit Logan down and we've had to have tough conversations, but he's also doing a great job, and he's been growing and he's been doing a good job. And one thing I know for sure is that I can trust him. And so he cuts all of our checks. He cuts almost $10,000 a week in checks. I trust him with all the checkbooks, but it's because I know him, and trust means a lot to me. If I hire somebody I don't know, it might take a lot longer to get to that point, but there are definitely some pros and cons there, Cassidy. Be ready to have tough conversations and make sure that they're actually bought in and they're willing. I would vet them the same way that you would vet anybody else, and if they fit that book, then be open to doing it. But you might be willing to ruin a relationship if things go sideways. That's the risk that you take. Okay. But when I talked to Logan, he's staying with me, but whether I fired him or not, it was like, he's okay with that. We were going to maintain the relationship. So we had those conversations up front. All right, with my small crew, I figured 300 square feet a week, 1,200 square feet is a 4-week remodel, just a different approach. That's good, Donnie. I like that. I think it just depends on the scope of work, though. Like if I've got a deal where we're converting a bathroom, converting a garage, raising the floor, turning something into a bathroom, like I don't think I could run my numbers like that. And so I just trying to run it per okay, this tiled shower is going to take me 4 days. Painting is going to take 3 days. This is going to take, and then I'd add all that up and I go, okay, this is a 5-week rehab. And then I try and add a little bit on top as well for contingency. Aberrant. Thank you. Appreciate you joining. Appreciate all y'all being on here. I think it's important to know everyone's always learning. People making mistakes. Firing people for the singlest thing can literally kill your reputation as a person. Yeah, 100%. And plus, if somebody makes the mistake, you've now paid for them to make that mistake. If they've learned from it, then it's like, okay, let's move on. Let's keep going, And so, yeah, you can't fire people over mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We're just humans, I've made some pretty big ones. What's the best funding for your first property? Commercial financing. Commercial financing is the best funding that you can get. It's going to be tougher. You need to have good financials. You need to have good reserves. But if you can get commercial financing, I would highly recommend it. Somebody asked, why commercial financing over hard money? Commercial financing has less fees, less interest rate, and it's just better all the way around. Hard money loans, you're going to pay typically 12% interest, 3 origination points, which means you're going to pay 3% on every $100,000 in loan, or $3,000. Versus I can get commercial financing for half a point origination, so $500 per 100,000, and instead of 12% interest, I'm 7.5% interest only. So almost half. Much better. I don't know why people still buy with hard money financing other than it's just easier, or it's their first few deals. First few deals, you may just have to buy hard money, and it is what it is. I've bought with hard money before. I still have one deal on hard money because I need to close something really quick this year. But for the most part, commercial financing is where it's at. How do you present owner finance offers? Samuel, I'm going to circle back to that because that is a lot to unpack on that one. It just depends. You've got to figure out the seller's motivation is really where that's the most important piece. If the seller doesn't want to sell because they don't want to pay taxes, that's usually a good intro to presenting a seller finance deal. 24 hours. No way, y'all. You guys are crazy. Lead generation. Okay. I found over the years, no matter the condition of the market, if you offer a good product to the market, it will sell. Yeah, Donnie, you're 100% right. Donnie's a veteran real estate investor. I mean, the thing is, y'all, one thing I know for a fact is people will always be buying or selling real estate to some extent. It may not be a ton. There may be less demand this year than there was 3 years ago, but that just means that I have to do better and bring a nicer product to market at a better price than my competition. And my competition, no offense, a lot of times is homeowners, which I know I can compete against, and then mom and pop investors, which no offense, I know I can compete against as well. And so anyways, it's taken a while to get to this point, but I finally feel confident about knowing how to do a good deal. If you plan for fixes you can't see when walking a property, how do you plan for fixes you can't see when walking property? Sewer lines, I try and get scoped pretty much almost every time, just to verify. The rest of the stuff, though, I just either take the risk on or I do my own walkthroughs. I mean, at this point, and I wouldn't recommend this for anybody else, I recommend you get inspections done, especially if it's your first few properties. But at this point, I usually know how to spot major issues. I know how to look at decking on a roof. I know how to look and see if an HVAC is a 410A system or if it's an R22. I know how to spot for leaks. Typically, termite damage you're going to see if it's a crawl space. You're either going to see in closer to the trim, you're going to see pinholes. You're going to see, if you're crawling a crawl space, I'll see it like on the seal plate. I'm not a termite inspector. Once again, I wouldn't recommend you guys go out and be your termite inspector. But for me, I'm comfortable assuming the risk on the deals that I buy for the most part, except for the sewer line, which actually I'm thinking about buying a sewer line scope so I can scope my own sewer lines. Uh-oh. Wife just said that the AC is not working again. All right, let's keep rolling. We'll fix that in a little bit. It just went out on us this week. How do you plan for fixes? Okay, we just went. Keep going. Thanks, McGill. Zeke, the beast. Let's go, dude. My current mindset is I don't know how to have nice things. I really need to overcome this. That's interesting, Thrifty. I mean, give me some more thoughts there. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to have nice things? I'm curious the thought process behind that. Maybe I can help a little bit there. Happy people aren't thankful. It's thankful people are happy. Dude, 100%. Like anytime I've noticed that I'm like extremely stressed or I'm not necessarily happy, it's because I'm not being grateful and I'm not in a grateful mindset, which does happen. I think it happens to all of us. But for the most part, if I can maintain my gratefulness, then I can typically maintain my happiness as well, and it makes a big difference. Lee, good to see you, Lee. Thanks for joining. Okay, down the street here in Tulsa, can you speak on when conducting due diligence on mortgages, IRS liens, unpaid utilities, or other judgments may still be attached to the fort? Okay, so in Tulsa's in Oklahoma, y'all. Can you speak on when conducting due diligence on mortgages, IRS liens, unpaid taxes, or other judgments for foreclosures? Okay, so you need to have a good title company. This applies to Oklahoma, y'all. If you are in a title company abstract state, if you're buying from the sheriff's sale, you need to have a good relationship with the title company. You need to go win the bid, go back to your title company, have them do a title search on it, and you can still typically pull title insurance before you close 30 days later. Every state's going to be different, but that comes directly from my title company. I will preface by saying, though, y'all, I've never bought a deal from a sheriff's sale. I've been to a few, and it just doesn't seem to work out for me when people buy way too high for what I would usually buy, and so I've never been able to buy a deal from the sheriff's sale. Wise man found the key secret in life: intrinsic versus extrinsic. John, I'm still figuring it out, brother, but thank you. I appreciate that. I'm thankful that I've been able to figure that out earlier. How do you calculate your max allowable offer on a flip? There's two ways that I calculate deals. Or like if I'm running really quick numbers, I'll go ARV times 70% minus rehab, and then typically hold costs and closing costs. Or there's what I consider a true cost method, which is ARV minus whatever you want to make on the deal, minus, and this is for a flip, right? Yeah. Minus your rehab, minus your contingency, minus your rehab, or minus your holding cost, buy side closing costs, sell side closing costs. Boom. and that's my max allowable offer. How do you research sold comps without your real estate license? I'm missing out on deals because I can't get bids and comps fast enough. Thrifty, you need to look into PropStream, and then Zillow is a really good way to pull comps without a real estate license. If you're in a state that's a non-disclosure state and you can't see prices, it's definitely harder. But I believe PropStream and Batch Leads, you still can pull comps, and they get pretty close to what the home sold for. So I would look into those two. If you guys don't want to pay for software, you can look into PropWire. I've not used it as much, but I've always been a PropStream guy. Yo, if ever I got a deal for you and you want it, would you be open to buying it? I'm working. AJ Jones, what's up, brother? AJ is local here to Oklahoma City as well. Would you be open to buying it? Dude, of course. Please send me deals, AJ. Hi, Cameron. Can you please share your thoughts on hard money lender or private money lender options, pros and cons? So just quick breakdown on hard money versus private money. Hard money, typically, they're going to name the terms, which, just so you guys know, everything's negotiable in life. I just negotiated my Airbnb actually for next week, which I'm pumped up about. My wife calls it haggling. I call it negotiating. I call it strategy. But anyway, so you can negotiate hard money loans. Typically, there's going to be less negotiation on hard money loan. With private money, you name the terms. But I don't recommend using private money on your first few deals because there's always risk involved. And for me, I'm always super conservative. I would rather lose somebody's money, like a bank's money or somebody that I don't know, than to lose my uncle's money. You know what I mean? And so raising private money, just be careful if you're raising from your friends and family and things don't go the way you want them. Even if you don't lose money, what if you're like, hey, I'm going to give you an 8% return and then you don't make any money on the deal? And so never guarantee with private money. I've only ever used private money a couple of times, but it is all negotiable. It really just depends on what people are willing to accept. You may go to somebody and say, I'll pay you 5% interest. And they may be cool with that, or it may be 8%. But hard money, typically you're going to pay 10 to 12% interest only on a 6 to 12 month loan, and then 1 to 3 origination points. That's the most common hard money that I see and I've heard of. What's the breakdown for your deal sources? I'm 22, purchased 5 this year. Dang, dude, that's awesome. Well, my biggest constraint is deal flow. I do cold call and text primarily, but I'm looking to do PPC soon. Sounds like you're on a good path, King Seb, but I would say make more relationships with wholesalers. That's really good leverage. They're going to bring you deals. They're putting in the work. They're going to put a fee on top. And then if you can make your numbers work, you can make it, you can buy the deal, rather than having to go and spend your time or money finding deals. So wholesalers, other investors, and other agents are really good sources for deals. You buy any Morby method deals? No, I'm not in the Morby method stuff. Nothing against the guy. I have nothing against. I think that he is extremely smart. Pace Morby is. I think he's got some really good stuff. But I bought one sub 2 deal ever, and I flipped it, and it worked pretty good. And then I bought some seller finance, but I don't even know exactly what a Morby method is, to be honest. Can you talk about why you have to replace cast iron sewer lines? Yes, cast iron sewer lines, they're really good. And like in upstate New York, they still use them. We don't replace cast iron with cast iron here in Oklahoma. Every market's going to be a little bit different, but we replace cast iron with PVC most of the time. The thing with cast iron is it corrodes from the inside out, and you get these blockages, and you either have to snake them often. You have to put them on a maintenance plan and snake them often, or you just have to replace them. But when they're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, typically there's a lot of corrosion in there. And so it's better just to replace it so you don't have issues down the line. I will tell you guys that I never really replaced sewer lines until I started getting calls 4 days before Christmas that the tenants' toilets were overflowing because the sewer lines were broken. Try getting a guy out when it's 3 days, 4 days before Christmas. It sucks. And it's a lot of stress right before holiday. I just don't like that stuff anymore. My name is Yassine. I reached out to, yes, sir. Hey, if you guys reach out on my DMs, I'm pretty slow to respond right now. I apologize. I respond to all my DMs, but it might take me a week. So I'm going to try and get better at that over time. I just get a decent amount of DMs where it's hard to respond to them all. How would you look at getting started investing in DMV area with about 50K liquid? Okay, Warren, where is DMV area? Let me know where that's at, please. Also interested in Morby method. Yeah, I don't really know what the Morby method is, Hans. Hey Cam, I'm taking an overseas contractor job, clearing after taxes 150 grand. Nice stuff, Jace. Cost of living 30K. My mom's GC. I want to work with her. I've worked with her on and off for 7 years. What approach would you recommend? So I would just say I've worked with family before. It works really well for some people. It doesn't for others. So make sure that everything is agreed upon and you guys have clear roles, communication, disbursements. Make sure everything is clear before you guys start working together. You don't want to ruin a relationship or you don't want to cause any rift with your own mom, but it could go really well also, Jace. So I would just say, if you're bringing the money and she's bringing the rehab, I mean, my first thought is you just split it down the middle, and start there and then kind of go from there. That may not be the best advice, but that would probably be my first thoughts. My man, your best, definitely putting Oklahoma back on the map. I'd say you like the Garth Brooks of real estate. Dang, dude. Like, you're going to make me blush a little bit. Thank you, bro. That's awesome. Golly, these glasses kind of lift up when I smile, but thank you, bro. Seriously, that is cool. Enjoying your stream. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Jace. Okay, so you meant for rehabbing properties. So you take an overseas contractor job, cost of living's 30Ks, your mom's a GC, you want to work with her. I've worked with her on and off. What would you recommend for rehabbing properties? Give me just a little bit more info there, Jace. I'm still a little confused, brother. How do you feel like getting a real estate license was a big help to real estate investment? Okay, getting a real estate license, you can pull bonus depreciation if you're a full-time real estate professional. Not if you just have your real estate license, but if you're considered a taxable real estate professional. And so for me, I can go spend $100,000, buy $1 million property, and write off $300,000 on my taxes through a cost segregation. That's a really dumbed up version of, example. It's just an example. But you get a lot of tax benefits. And then also, for me, I get asked a lot, like, how do you have construction experience? I didn't grow up with construction experience. I've just seen, I would say, upwards 500, 600, 700 inspection reports. I've spent a lot of time with inspectors, and I've just, through helping other investors first and then kind of going and doing it myself, I've seen a lot over the last 7 years. Just watching others buy and sell real estate, watching others get inspections done. And so that's helped me out a ton, having my real estate license. And I have a pretty good idea what buyers like and don't like. Like here in Oklahoma City, buyers don't like a master on the second bedroom. They don't like to back up to a main road. They don't like a flood zone. So a lot of that stuff, A, it comes through experience, but B, it also comes through helping others buy and sell real estate. Any books you recommend that inspired you? I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad's always a good book. And that's like a good intro to just thinking correctly, knowing how to think like an investor or like an entrepreneur. The whole $100 million leads, $100 million offers, $100 million money models. All those books by Alex Hormozy are amazing. But I would say I listen to videos and podcasts more than I read now, which I definitely want to. I'm going to start reading, not want to. I'm going to start reading more. But strangely enough, y'all, I mean, if I'm going to read, I read like nonfiction war books. That is my jam. And mainly Vietnam War for some reason. That, like, history, war books, I mean, I love that stuff. And so typically if I'm reading, I'm not reading business, because I'm plugged in working 10, 12 hours a day. And I usually just need to relax my mind towards the end of the day. And so that's how I unplug, is with history books. Any books? Okay, yeah. Talk about how you fund your flips. Are you in a position to self-fund? You've mentioned construction loans in a past video. Do you prefer over hard money? If so, why? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Or yes, ma'am, Trisha. I do prefer over hard money. Once again, commercial financing, much cheaper loan fees, much cheaper interest rate than hard money loans. And so try to get hooked up with a local commercial money lender or commercial loan. I'm losing my mind, y'all. Sorry. Commercial lender in your market. What's the best way to find a project manager? Cassie, I never really searched for one, just lined up that it's my best bud that is my project manager. But I don't know, I didn't go to college or anything. So, a lot of times I'm asking people around me. I have a decent I have decent leverage on my Facebook. I've got about 40,000 people on my Facebook. And so a lot of times I'll post a story and I have people referred to me if I'm looking for work. So I've never really used like Indeed or anything like that. I usually have people referred to me. It's also how I found my assistant, and she is freaking amazing. Kyla is. Anyways, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Kyla. How do you manage work-life balance? I'm 25 years old and I find myself trying to work as many hours as possible. Dude, that's tough. Like there's no true balance at the end of the day, in my opinion. I'm 24. I still typically work 12 hours a day. My typical schedule Monday through Friday is 6:30. I wake up, I have about 30 minutes to drink my coffee, and then I'm usually working from 7 to 6 to 7:30 at night, somewhere in there. It just depends on the day. And then from 7:30 to about 8:30 or 9, I'm hanging out. I've got full-time guardianship of my little brother. And so we're hanging out. I try and give him at least an hour to an hour and a half a night. And then on the weekends, I hang out with him as well. I may do a little bit of work in the mornings, but I hang out with him like today I'm doing this live. We're going to go shoot a little content and then we're going to go hang out. Friday night, we went and hunted bullfrogs, which was awesome. So yeah, I'm always on some like little side quest if I'm not hanging. Here, check this bullfrog out that we caught. Massive. It's a massive frog. I'm gonna try to eat one here soon. There's no true balance though. So I try and unplug a little bit on the weekends. I used to work straight through the weekends. If it wasn't for having full-time guardianship of my little brother, I would probably work even more. But I want to give him the childhood that I didn't have. And so for me, I take a little bit of a sacrifice and work a little bit less to be able to provide that, and it's worth it for me. I really enjoy hanging out with him. He's 6. So, but if you're 25, you don't have a wife, you don't have kids, dude, just send it. But at the end of the day, you also don't want to look up 15 years from now and have a bunch of money, but also miss your 20s, So I also really like taking nice vacations, and I do not budget my vacations. We just spend what we spend, and so that's kind of how I manage it. But I don't think there's like a true balance either, bro. Do you market as guys that spend like 5 to 10K a month in marketing? I'm looking at direct mail. Yeah, I do market. We spend 4 or 5K a month. Mostly for my real estate team. And then we get some seller leads, seller deals from that as well. But I don't do a ton of marketing. Most of mine is through organic content, because I think that you build better relationships by just providing value through organic content, and people bring you deals. So I get a lot of deals from other agents here in Oklahoma City, other wholesalers, other investors, and they know I'm a buyer as well. I built up that reputation. I may not be the highest buyer, but if I lock a deal up, I'm going to buy it 9 times out of 10, mostly 10 times out of 10, and so, through building my brand, my reputation, and just organic marketing, I've been able to have leverage. And I think that's the future. If I'm running Facebook ads, Facebook decides who they're placing ads in front of. They decide how much I have to spend. My CPMs, my cost per 1,000 impressions, may be $30 one day, maybe $15 the next, depending on your industry. Your cost per lead may go from $5 to $10. And these are just examples, $50 to $100. And I don't necessarily love that, And so for me, the quality of my content and me providing value reaches enough people to where they bring deals back to me, and that's a lot of the stuff I put out is free content, because I want people to know here locally that I buy and sell deals. And I want them to think, oh, Cam always talks about the deals he's buying. Let me bring him a deal, So everybody's got a different niche though. My buddy was sending 24,000 pieces of direct mail every 6 weeks, and he did great with it. He crushed it. I think his average, it's going to depend on your market, but it's just cost a lot to do deals right now. How's the market in Houston? I don't know a ton, bro. I'm sure there's guys that are doing great in Houston, but also there's guys that are not. But that's in every market, and that will always be in every market. Benton, what's up, brother? Good to see you. How can I make sure my first buy is a win? Building up my cash right now by getting more mechanic jobs, and been working really hard to save money to get a duplex with an FHA loan. House hacking with an FHA loan, super good way to make sure that you guys make money on your first deal. You're probably not going to have a ton of equity because FHA has what's called appraisal required repairs. FHA's government-backed loans. They offer it to every first-time home buyer across the United States. They do have an income threshold, or not an income threshold, a purchase price threshold in the $400,000 range, I believe. But they'll allow single family and then multifamily, I believe, up to 4 units, 3.5% down. And in a lot of markets, you can get down payment assistance. So I would be looking into that as well. What some people do is they get their real estate license and they're able to use the 2-3% that they would get, whatever the commission is that they would get from buying a deal. They can use that as a portion of their down payment. But I will say, don't get your real estate license just for that, because there's a lot of fees that go involved or that get involved. And so ideally, if you're going to get your real estate license, plan to sell some real estate. But I think that's a really good plan, Daniel. Once again, just FHA loans, safe, sound, and secure. So you got, property's got to have good flooring, got to have no broken windows, no chipped paint because of lead-based paint. And so it's got to be in decent shape. But if you can go get a duplex and you can be net neutral, not losing any money, not making any money, and you can live in one of the units, give it 3 to 5 years through appreciation, rents will increase and you should be cash flow positive. Any deal, if you hold for the long term, it's hard to lose on. You could have bought a house over market in 2015, but you would be well in the money today, and I think that is the same to be said today and in 2020 or 2035. Ben, thanks for the thumbs up, bro. Okay, how can I make sure okay, we already talked. I have 180,000 on a HELOC and I have 20K in cash. How would you start? That's why I was asking marketing, because finding property. Okay, so DS, as far as I know, HELOC is interest only payments and it's supposed to be somewhat short term. Tell me how your HELOC is structured, because that's going to make a big difference on what I recommend. So yeah, let me know on that, DS. Missed the earlier question, but you can say how you find your wholesalers. Local Facebook groups, y'all. Local Facebook groups and meetups. I mean, best way to find wholesalers, and post organic content. They'll find you as well. They're watching. Every wholesaler wants to buy and sell real estate. So if you're buying and selling real estate, post about it, because those wholesalers will look up to you, because that's where they want to be. And so if you can add value to them, they'll add value to you and bring you deals. What is most important to build first, deal funnel or financing capacity? Pay your ignorance debt down first, I would say, Mark. And then that's a good one. I mean, obviously you got to have deal flow for the financing to even matter. But if you don't have the financing set up, then the deal flow doesn't matter either. So focus on both. You got to have deals and you've got to have the financing or the funding. But ideally, get your foundation. Really, now that I think through this, get your fundamentals set up, get your LLC set up, make sure that you have your bank accounts ready, get your funding set up, and then go start looking for the deals. Maybe friends, but definitely never hire family. Yeah, I will say though, Rob, I know family. I mean, the Levinsons are a perfect example. Number 1 team in Oklahoma, their whole family works together and they have for a decade, and it works good for them, and so I would say for 99% of people, working with family does not work, but I've seen it work for some. Bad credit, have 40K. What do you do? Work on your credit, Miguel. I would say work on your credit. You have bad credit probably because of something that's on there. And so work on getting that up. And in the meantime, learn as much as you can. Who cares if you can make 100 grand this year? Because if you can go learn what to do to be able to make a million through the rest of the year, then and get your credit up, then you'll have the foundations to go and make it happen. And so, yeah, work on your credit for sure, Miguel. Let me know what your credit issues are. Maybe I can help out there. PropStream has comps. Yes, it does. PropStream does have comps. All right, Donnie, so true. With just a paradigm shift in the mind, one can become very rich in their own backyard. No education, just the will and energy for real estate. For sure. You got to have somewhat of a passion. I would say I didn't wake up passionate about real estate when I was 18. I obviously like it now. And I love hunting for deals. I love having people that I can employ, that they can feed their families, and so there's a lot of benefit that comes through buying and selling real estate. But it really is a paradigm shift. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that you can go make it work. Another thing is I had a comment this morning from this guy. I get some silly comments, y'all. If you guys want to see some funny ones, go read through the comments on that squatter video I did. It has like 310,000 views. Not the newest one, but the older one. And I just have some real walnuts in there. But a guy this morning put on there, he's like, yeah, the cons outweigh the pros nowadays to buy real estate, so I wouldn't recommend it, which is just ignorant. I told him, I was like, well, I think my Maui trip next week and my bank account shows otherwise. Okay, Morby method is part of sub 2 and part seller finance. Oh, part sub 2, part seller finance. So the one thing that I don't love about everything about the sub 2 scene is the leverage. I think that a lot of the deals are over leveraged, Rob, which is, I mean, obviously there's guys making way more money than me. So what am I to say, and sit here to say, but I'll just tell you my thoughts is I like having equity because it gives me leverage and it gives me options. If I have to exit a deal, I can go exit a deal tomorrow. I can sell it under market and still cash out and still make money. The problem is if you go sub 2 alone, seller finance, and there's no equity in the deal, I just wouldn't want to do that. But if there's still equity, then 100% part sub 2 and part seller finance. I mean, I guess I do somewhat of a Morby method through going and buying commercial properties that are part bank financing, part seller finance, and then we bring some down payment as well. The thing I like about those is I have the equity piece on top. All right, rust and build up in pipes. Plumbing is easy to learn too. Yeah, dude, anybody can do plumbing. Tampons, don't flush in cast iron. Ben, you're right about that. Don't flush condoms. Don't flush flushable wipes either. I know one of my tenants have been doing that because the plumbers tell me. That's DC, Maryland, Virginia. That's DMV area. Okay, so what's the market like in DC, Maryland, and Virginia? Let me know what the average price point is there, y'all, and I'll circle back to that question. Are you buying homes sight unseen? Are you always doing a sewer scope or just budgeting in case the sewer line needs work? Every deal is different, y'all. If there is a lot of margin on the deal, then I'll just buy sight unseen and forego the sewer scope. But it has to be really, really deep. Like if I'm buying, for example, 30% of ARV, then typically I'll just buy it sight unseen. But majority of deals, I do not buy sight unseen. I have before. I don't recommend it because you can definitely get screwed over. But yeah, so that's my recommendation. But yeah, I typically try and do a sewer scope on every deal if I can. Some of them I may forego depending on how good the numbers are. But don't do as I do. I would just recommend getting a sewer scope, y'all. Short-term rentals do not need to be reps to get the tax benefits, correct? I don't know, Hans. I don't want to tell you wrong there, brother. Make sure that you check with your CPA. Best way to learn is get your hands dirty. 100%. 100%. When you drive for dollars, what's the most accurate way to find the owners? I use PropWire to skip trace. I've never been able to actually get a good contact number. Dude, use truepeoplesearch.com. I'm not sponsored by them. I've always used them. Super easy way to get data. And then if you want like good data, Versium.com. It's I think I pay like 3 cents a skip trace. VERSIUM, I think, something like that. But True People Search usually has decent contact info as well. Liz, as a realtor, do you have any advice for making low offers to people wanting to sell their home, knowing they could get more on the market? How do you do this ethically without ruining your reputation? Well, I've done it for the last 4 years, and I've made it public, and I've not had one person have an issue with it. And the way to do it ethically is you tell them up front, if you list this property, you will likely make more money. And they will tell you, okay, I want to list. Or they will tell you, okay, that's fine. I don't want to list. I understand selling to you. I'm going to make less money. And then I write in my contracts that I'm buying the property for a profit. I'm buying it to make money and I'm buying it under market value. And so the way to do it ethically, Liz, is to just be transparent and be upfront. There's no reason to lie to anybody because the reality is they know that with you being an investor, you have to make money. And I tell them up front, like, just so you know, if I buy your property, obviously there's got to be some upside for me. And I say that and they're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, well, I am going to be under what you probably could sell or what you could probably sell this for on market, but it's an as-is deal. I can close in 30 days. You don't have a bunch of people coming through your house. And sometimes sellers don't care to make the most amount of money. Motivation is different for every seller. So some sellers, they just want an as is deal. Some sellers, they don't want people in their house. Other sellers, they don't want to list it, and then some are like, I want to make the most amount of money. And those are the ones that list. But typically, if they're heading to foreclosure or there's huge motivation, like they understand they're not going to make the most money, And so if you're just upfront, ethical, transparent, you'll be fine. And I've done that. I've shown my deals. I literally, if you guys go to my Facebook, I have sellers that I bought homes from that I bought under market value that support my content and watch my content because I do it ethically. And so if you do it that way, you should never run into any issues. I guess I'm just wondering if it's feasible to pay that investor role while in another country. Like I wouldn't be able to walk a property physically, but I trust her and we have set ground rules. Yeah, I think so, Jace. I mean, obviously, it's going to be more conservative if you're here locally. I mean, I know you trust your mom, but if you truly trust her, then and you've got the funding, then it's a good way to have leverage while you're out of country. But it is always going to be safer if you see the properties, you do them yourself. But maybe she brings the experience that you lack, and you can bring the money piece. Licensed realtor have fiduciary responsibility. Yeah, they do. They do. But at the same time, if you are upfront and transparent, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, I can present you an offer that's an as-is deal from me. Obviously, it's going to be under market value, or we can list your property and this is what it would look like. You are fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility because you're being transparent and you're letting the client make the decision. That's where a lot of agents go wrong is they think, oh, I can't ever buy or sell deals because I have fiduciary duty. Yes, you can. You're letting the client make the decision because you're laying it out and you're being transparent and giving them everything up front. Do you have any factors, principles when you're doing a rehab, a must-have when flipping or renting a house? Typically, yes, cash on cash return. I like to be close to 20% or above. 7 or 30% equity. So if my loan to value is 70, or if my loan is 70,000, the house has to be worth 100. And then, sometimes it changes a little bit. Like right now, I need more depreciation. I need to hold more deals for end of year so I don't pay 200 grand in taxes. And so I am going to be a little bit more relaxed because now I have to factor what the tax incentives are for buying these deals on top of cash flow, et cetera. So I'm going to hold some deals right now where technically on paper, I'm losing $150 a month, but the tax incentives are there and I'm going to hold them for the next couple of years. And then I can 1031 because I have good equity. So for me, it's worth it to lose $3,000 last year because it's going to save me 40,000 on my taxes this year, if that makes sense. A little bit more of an advanced tax strategy for sure. Do you use Facebook to network? Yes, sir, I do, Nick. Yes. What are the main ways wholesaling a fix and flip goes wrong? Wholesaling a fix and flip. Well, if you don't trust your buyer or you don't know your buyer and they back out last minute, it can go wrong because you are then legally obligated per the contract to buy the deal. So you got to be very careful. If I'm going to wholesale a deal, I double close, number one. So 2 ways to wholesale. You can double close or you can assign. Assigning is where you assign your rights to the contract to the wholesaler and then to the end buyer. Double closing is where you go to closing, you close on it, and then you close with your end buyer. And so technically it's like a very, very fast flip because you are closing on the deal. But for me, I double close. And if I'm going to wholesale deal, which I really don't wholesale a ton, if the buyer backs out, I'm going to close it. And I think that if you can't close a deal that you're trying to wholesale, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. Unless you've just got a shady contract. So then I guess you could bust it, but I don't operate like that. Okay. Are you planning on becoming a broker? No, I'm not. I'm not really interested in being a broker. I love our broker. I mean, he's got my back. He always has. I'm a team lead. The little amount that I pay him every year is worth it. I get to use the office. There's a ton of incentives, and I know he's got my back. So I just don't necessarily want to be one at this moment. What did you name your new goat? Oh, John, Polly. That's what my wife wanted to name our new goat. Okay. Okay. Have you ever done foreclosures or short sales? Natalie, no, ma'am, I have not. Could you possibly go over, I mean, I bought deals right before foreclosure, but I've never bought from a share sale. Could you possibly go over a checklist for someone doing duplexes through FHA, House Hack, or any general advice from your experience? Yes, William, I can put a checklist together, brother. Off the top of my head, it would be incomplete. I'd need to sit down for that. But that's something that I definitely do here in the near future. How old your brother? That's amazing. Nick, he's 6. He's 6 years old now. How difficult would it be to get your own GC, to be your own GC on your first flip? We know a lot of tradesmen, but haven't been able to find a good GC yet. Thrifty, you may run into issues with permitting. If they require a licensed contractor, depending what the requirements are in your state, that would be one thing I'd be careful about. So yeah, that's one thing that I would look into if you are looking to GC your own flip. I mean, I would try and find one if it's your very first flip, because you're going to learn a lot, even though you know a lot of tradespeople. And you're going to get to learn from their experiences as well, And so like if you hire a GC, you're going to watch them manage it. If you go and try and manage your first flip, you might run into some management issues. David, love your videos. Love how you dive deep into everything and explain everything well. You don't just explain surface information like these other wholesaler YouTubers. Thank you guys. When I started posting on YouTube, I had 2 goals, or I had 2 things that I was going to stick with. I'm going to be myself. I'm just going to, get on and kind of do my thing. And then I'm going to show you guys the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, because I think a lot of people aren't. And so anyways, I do appreciate you guys watching all the videos. It does mean a lot. Hey, Remy, what's up? Hey, by the way, y'all, what have you guys thought of this stream so far? Do you guys like this style? Would you rather I get on here and instead of answer questions like this, just spiel whiteboard style? I mean, I want to get your guys' thoughts. Oh, if you guys can as well, hit a little like on the video also, please. Sending you a deal in Chandler. Please check your Facebook DMs later. Let's go, Rob. Thank you, bro. It's exactly what I was talking about, y'all. Organic content like this gets deal flow. Rob is going to send me a deal, and I appreciate that. So I will check that out for sure. Appreciate the authentic content. Trying to pick up my second long-term rental by the end of the year. Live in Jacksonville, Florida. Let's go, bro. That's awesome. Hey, Steve, if you ever go fishing, we go fishing in Jacksonville. By the way, I don't think this is likely, but if anybody's in Maui, I'm going to be in Maui the 20th through the 30th. HELOC. Okay, so DS, the way your HELOC is structured is you have access to it for 10 years, 7.5% rate, only payments. Is that only interest payments, or is that principal and interest? Please let me know on that, because that also makes a difference. How do you feel about people who say you should only burr if it's a perfect burr where you can cash out 100%? Dr. Bong, Dr. Bong Tokes. That's an interesting name. Dude, I have cash in every single deal that I've ever bought, and I own 8 million real estate. So I leave cash in my deals. I'm definitely pretty conservative. I think it's fine. You're going to make money. The name of the game is to hold real estate. So even if you buy something and you've got a little bit of cash in the deal, if you've got a good cash on cash return, you're making more than you would in the S&P. You still get the appreciation. You still get the depreciation. And I think it'll be a win in the long term. It's different for everyone's goals, though. Does the 1% rule still work for holding long-term rentals? If not, what's a good rule of thumb to look for? Dude, I can't make a 1% deal work for holding a rental. But I also buy on a 20-year amortization rather than a 30-year amortization. So if I was amming out over 30 years, I would have a little bit lower of a payment, and maybe that deal would work at that point. But no, I can't make a 1% deal work. I'm usually like 1.3 to 1.5 minimum. And there's certain markets I could go buy 2% deals, but there's downside. They're rougher areas. They're more headache. They're older, and so I found my happy mediums like 1.3 to 1.5. But I also like to tell you guys my strategy right now. I have rentals that make $100 a month. They're okay, but they're nice rentals in good areas, brick homes. That's kind of what I'm moving towards this year. And then for my true cash flow, I sell or finance deals and I make extremely high returns on those. So I'm okay not making money on one rental because I'm making 2 or 3 times what I would with the seller finance deals. But there's pros and cons to both. You don't get the depreciation on a seller finance deal like you would a rental. And so that's why I have both and not just one or the other. Sellers who sell at a discount also save by no commission or closing costs. Also, time on market and mortgage payments if they list. Rob, 100%. One of the problems with a lot of agents is they're like, these investors are horrible people. They're taking advantage of sellers. And I think there are a lot that are. But if I'm coming in, I'm being transparent, I'm being upfront, then there's nothing wrong with that. If they understand their options and they know like, okay, I might make more money. They might still not make more money if they go to market. They might get a retail buyer that says they have to replace the roof and make, and then do a bunch of TRR repairs, repair requests. I've seen deals where realtors overpromise on selling a deal, and then that house goes to foreclosure because they put it on the market and they couldn't sell it. And they could have just sold to a cash buyer and been fine. Jace, thank you, bro. Thanks for watching this stuff, dude. Appreciate that. Steve's answering Gabe here. Okay, I really do appreciate you putting out real content. I'm looking at Marlins in Maryland, looking to get into wholesaling to raise capital through first investment. How do you find and provide value for a mentor? So I get a lot of people that ask me, like, they want to go to breakfast. No offense, it's not, now in my career, does not make sense to go to breakfast majority of times, like 9 out of 10 times. And that's just because I know my dollar per hour, and it's not that creating a relationship isn't worth it, but there's no leverage going 1-to-1. I would rather not take 30 minutes to drive and meet someone for breakfast and then 30 minutes home, which is a 2 hours out of my 12-hour day, which is losing a lot of leverage. I'd rather hop on a phone call. And so if somebody was reaching out to me, I mean, what I would recommend, Marlon, is I would first recommend offering to pay somebody. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to want you to pay them, but they're going to respect that you offered to pay them. Like, hey, can I pay you for a phone call? Not for breakfast. Can I pay you for a phone call? And a lot of times they'll just jump on the phone with you. I did that for a long time. I can't now. I've too many people that want to jump on the phone. But if you're reaching out to somebody that's not massive in your market, or I'm not massive by any means, but if you're just reaching out to somebody that maybe posts a little bit of content, has a few thousand followers, but is a big hitter, if you just offer to pay for a phone call, they're probably going to let you pay for a phone call, and they're probably just going to let you take the phone call and you don't have to worry about paying for it. So that's what I would recommend, Marlon. William, thanks, bro. Appreciate this, dude. This style is great. Thank you, John. Let's do it. Get on some reds, bro. What are the reds, Steve? Okay, highly enjoying the stream. I'm seriously learning and taking notes. Dude, thank you. Do you guys think that I should post this as a video afterwards so it's available as a video? It definitely won't be as high quality as my typical stuff, but I want to get you guys' thoughts that. Elite, you got a boat? We can go all deep sea fishing in Jacksonville. Let's go, bro. I will take you up on that. Negotiating on a 3-2 right now. List was 165, offered at 115. They countered at 140. Okay. List was 165. You offered 115. Nice. They countered at 140. 125 is your max to meet minimum cash flow. Thoughts? Nice. Steve, I would go probably 117.5. Odd numbers do good for me when I'm negotiating. Leave a little bit of margin. If you went 125, they're going to counter again. So I'd go 117.5. You're not very far off. And then when they counter, then you can counter it like 122.5. And then they may still counter again. And then you guys can solidify at 125. What are conditions for a deal that a wholesaler brings you in order for you to accept that deal? David, good question. Really just depends, brother. I would say I need to be able to hit my minimum cash on cash return. I need to make sure that my velocity of money makes sense for me so I can be in and out of the deal in, 5, maybe 6 months max. I need to make sure that I have my 70% loan to value max on the deal. And then once again, every market's just a tad different. If I'm buying in Edmond, I might have a little bit different terms than if I was buying in Shawnee, Okay, let me get you guys' thoughts here. I do not mind. We could still have 76 people on here. I don't mind keep rolling. If you guys are okay if I take a 2-minute pee break, because I do have to pee real quick. So I'll wait for you guys to respond, and then you guys can think of some questions for when I come back in. But if not, I am going to have to end it because I need to pee. My husband's GC. No, take the camera to the bathroom. Get out of here, Nick. Great content. You have a good video from your videos. So I'll watch simply. Dude, thank you, Dr. Bong. You're a human. Yes, bro, go to the bathroom. All right, 2 minutes. Be right back. Oh, much better, y'all. I'm back. Okay, John says, post this on YouTube. Yes, sir. I like the live stream. It allows you to socialize with your viewers on a more personal level and get questions answered. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bong. Appreciate that. Okay, what other questions we got here? I just started investing full time. Worried I will have issues with commercial funding because global ratios are too low. What should I do to make sure that I will qualify for commercial funding? That's tough, Brent. You need to work on your financials, I would say. So either work on getting more cash, because you can leverage different areas. You can leverage your cash. You may not have the best like monthly cash flow, but if you've got 100, 200 grand in the bank, that makes a big difference, And so I would work on probably leveraging cash to be able to offset those global ratios, and that will make you look better for the banks, and just get good financials. Keep your financials solid. Okay. So Liz, your husband is a licensed GC. He can obviously do the work cheaper for us versus retail clients. Should I be running deals like it's for retail clients or cheaper numbers? Liz, always overestimate your rehabs. Even though he's a licensed GC, I would overestimate those numbers. That's funny. How's everyone's day going so far? Can't even go to how to flip seminar and get this much info. Ben, thank you, bro. I appreciate that, dude. I really do. I don't have any reason to gatekeep any information. I need a GC in Dallas. Anyone know of any? I like this. Community help in the community. Go pee. I'll be here, brother. When you were in the beginning stages, did you ever run out of capital to buy deals? So, I had a period for sure. In the beginning, I bought a deal, and then it took me probably 8 months to buy another deal after that. And so I was buying a deal maybe every 8 months, and then I would scale up, and I was buying a deal every like 6 months, and then 4 months, and then you just kind of slowly build that up and buy more and more deals until today I buy. I think I'm going to end right around 50 deal, or not 50, 5 deals done per month, so right around 60 deals done this year. Bought, sold, wholesale, stuff like that. So, what to do if cash buyer contacts seller directly and tries to steal deal from wholesaler? David, it definitely helps to have leverage. That's pretty shady for that cash buyer to do. You need to work with buyers that you can trust. And there are ways to protect your interest. I mean, I've never done it, but you technically in most states can cloud the title. to protect your interest. For me, I've never had to do it. I just, never really made sense for me. But that is something that you could technically do. But really, just make sure you work with solid buyers. And if you're worried, you can have them sign an NDA that would give you some legal ramifications if they did try and do that. But most cash buyers, they're not going to try and go around you. I mean, there's always going to be a few bad apples, but if you get in a market like Oklahoma City, if there, we've got a group chat with all the big hitters, all the big wholesalers, investors, and so if somebody tried to do that here, they would get ostracized, or however you say that. Like, they would not be around for much longer. Not, oh, I don't mean it like that. They wouldn't be able to work with other wholesalers or investors. It's not that they wouldn't be around. They just, like, wholesalers, investors, they wouldn't send them deals because everybody would know. We're a small market. And I think it's like that in a lot of markets too. Word's going to spread. Word of mouth spreads pretty quickly. Okay. Okay. Post it so we can watch it. I love the videos and really appreciate the information. What's the goal with the YouTube channel? Surely it's not financial. Sneaker, I mean, when I went to Hormozy's small group event, is the first one he ever put on. And I realized how important, or how much leverage you have with having an audience, having influence. I like helping people. I mean, that is one piece. I do think, I know that I'm going to have, there's a financial piece to this. Not only am I getting deals from it, I do plan at some point to have a larger mentorship, because I think there's a lot of bad actors in the mentorship sector in general. And I think there's a lot of bad information being spread by some of these guys. So I do plan, once it's done, on going live with that and allowing people to join the mentorship if it's a good fit. So like that is one piece. I really enjoy, like, obviously, we've been on here for 2 hours. I just enjoy being able to share information and help, because I didn't necessarily have that. I did have some mentors. My brother helped me out with some deals in the beginning. I had other people as well, but not like super, super in depth, which is what I try and make my videos. And so I just kind of enjoy that piece as well, being able to share an impact. I've got a goal to impact 100,000 lives. I'll never know if I hit that or not, but through this, I'm able to do that and hopefully make some money doing it as well. Okay. What do you do if your AC is set for 69 and is set? Hey, Brooke Burke, that's my wife in the chat. What I'm going to do, B, is I'm going to send you Jeremiah's contact, our HVAC guy, and you give him a call, and then I'll circle back with him once this live is finished. That's actually really funny. Getting called out here. Okay. What's your thoughts on Jerry Norton's 10K club thing? He wants us to pay him 1K to go find him deals, and if he accepts deals, he wants us to pay him. Wait, he wants you to pay him $1,000 to find him deals, and he accepts deal, he pays 10K to you. So nothing against Jerry Norton. I really don't know much about him, but I will tell you this, David. If you go find me deals here in Oklahoma City, and I'm able to pay you 10K margin, and you wholesale it to me, I have no problem paying you 10K margin. And I won't charge you $1,000 to go find me the deal either. So learning your market is one of the biggest aspects. What would you say the best way to learn your market? Just getting out there, or is there a method in the madness? Start watching the deal flow, Dr. Bong Tokes. Dude, your name's cracking me up still. But watch the deal flow. If I were you, I would be looking at houses every single day. I would be looking at the houses that are on market, that are going pending, that are getting sold, and just watch that every day. Watch, I'm lucky I have the MLS, so we have a hot sheet. But if you just watch those deals, like, okay, here's 100 houses that sold today. Oh, everybody's laughing now. So here's 100 houses that sold today. Let's look at them. Why? Okay, this one sold. Why did it sell? You need to be able to think. And so that's a way to really learn your market well. And then you're going to see, okay, well, this one sold, but it sold under market. Let's look at it. Let's look through the photos. Why did it sell under market? This one sold, it sold in 2 days. Let's look at it. Why does it? And if you look at that every single day, you're going to learn your market. Would I be interested in a deal in North Carolina? David, no, sir, not at the moment. I know Oklahoma City really well. If I went to North Carolina, it would just be logistically not worth it for me at the moment. Maybe I will down the road, but just right now, it wouldn't make sense. Okay, Caitlin asks, what up, Caitlin? For future plan, Caitlin's here in Oklahoma City. She's actually one of my 4 mentor students. So for future planning on the current hold properties, how do you figure possible increase in taxes and insurance? Do you have a built-in increase for rent rates? Sorry, Caitlin, I know you asked that earlier. Okay. So it's hard, every area is going to be a little bit different, but here in Oklahoma City, typically once your taxes reassess, they're going to go up a capped like 3% a year, most times. You can't always guesstimate that, but so taxes, yes, I'll estimate like a 3% bump, and then insurance is hard because we're getting way more than a 3% bump right now, depending on the deal. So I don't know as much on the insurance side. It also depends on what market you're in, but I try and bump both 3% roughly. And then worst case, I could always go to an ACV policy, an after cash value policy. That's something that I talked about. If I ever had to, if the insurance just got out of control, I would just strip my policies down to increase my cash flow. And on some deals, I'm thinking of doing that anyways to be able to get a little bit more cash flow. There's definitely more risk involved. But for the taxes, about 3% is what I estimate on a bump. And then I just make sure I track it in my spreadsheet. Okay, Sean says, thanks for the awesome content, helping everybody out. Do you use 70% ARV minus repair formula and buying your deals? What is your cash on cash criteria? So Sean, typically try and shoot for 20% cash on cash, but like I was saying earlier, right now I'm okay taking less because there's an upside to what I'm going to save on my taxes for having more depreciation. So it's like this, like it changes. My formula changes. It's always changing a little bit, but I'm okay here in Q4 taking less cash on cash. When we get into Q1, Q2, Q3, my cash on cash is going to go back up because I'm not going to be as worried about taxes at that time. Right now, a lot of what I do is for tax strategy and tax planning, because when you get into a certain income threshold, you can make $1 million, but if you got to spend, or you have to go pay $250,000 in taxes, like what's the point? Better hold more real estate so you don't have to do that. And so that's one of the benefits to being a quote unquote real estate professional. But to your other piece, Sean, I like the true cost method. Like take your ARV minus your profit, minus your rehab, minus your whole cost, closing costs, sell side closing costs. And that's usually my MAO or my max allowable offer. For quick and dirty rehabs, if I'm just trying to see if the numbers will work, I will use 70% less repairs. What are my thoughts on mini storage? Becky, I've looked at mini storage. I mean, mini storage is really hot. That's why I'm not necessarily that interested in it. You can only get a 7 or 8 capitalization rate or rate of return versus what you pay for the property, which that you are not really going to cash flow with debt. So if you have debt and you're only getting a 7 or 8 cap, you're really not cash flowing anything today because of where rates are at. And so literally every mini storage I see is just way too high because you have big hedge funds that are buying up everything at pretty low cap rates, and I can't compete with that. So, and the only ones that I could compete with are like small 30, 40 unit storage facilities, kind of more rural areas. And then the management's a headache. And then you're managing, it's like kind of like 40 doors, even though there are management softwares that manage it for you. It's not for me unless I really could find a deal. I would look at self-storage, but it's definitely hot right now. And I don't necessarily want to compete with what's super hot. Okay. I've had the same name since you were 15. And it's why, okay. Dr. Bong says that, fair play on your success. Connor Burke. Thanks, bro. You've got a cool last name as well. Dang. B is in the chat. That's what I call my wife. Let's see. She hadn't even responded to me. I did wash my hands, Caitlin. You text me. I did wash my hands. So maybe not for 60 seconds, but I did. Okay. Let's see what questions I've got here. 100K to 50K. Do you need a real estate? What do you get your funding? Are these good terms? So I got asked yesterday. Somebody sent me a DM. He sent me a term sheet for a cash out refi. DSCR loan, so debt service coverage ratio loan, which is usually people will do, let's see, boom, hard money loan, and then they'll cash out to a DSCR loan after 6 months, after the seasoning period. And it was a 2.5% origination fee. It was 8% interest, and I thought those were horrible terms. And so I told him to join the live. I was going to talk about it. I don't know if he's here or not, but my recommendation would be keep shopping, because I know DSCR is getting down below 7%, and you should be able to negotiate origination fees 1.5% or less. But that's one of the reasons why I don't love a BRRRR, is because you have to pay double closing costs when you go from your stabilized property and then cashing out to a DSCR loan, versus I buy commercial financing and I can stay with the same bank, still pull my cash out and not have to pay double closing costs. There are still some title fees typically, but it's not like a full cash out refi. Okay, 1 second, y'all. My coffee's still warm. I know you bought some commercial. What's your take on commercial real estate? Elite sports. I've made more money on commercial real estate than anything else. We bought a building. I'm getting my years mixed up now. I think it was beginning of last year. No, the year before, end of 2023. Bought a building, fully stabilized. I think end of last year. I'm getting my dates mixed up for sure. Fully stabilized within about 14 months. We put $35,000 down with about $3,000 in holding costs. We were cash flow positive day one because we put a tenant in the back building. With commercial real estate, unlike residential real estate, the value of the property is based off of what the income of the property is. So you have a residential house, doesn't really matter how much it's producing, it's worth what the comps are selling. But you have a commercial property and it's worth based off of a cap rate. And so we had an appraisal done, 35K down, and we bought it for 500, put 150 into it, appraised for 1.15 million. So we made like 400,000 or 500,000 with technically like 50K because we financed the rehab. It's hard to do that with that would have taken a lot of single family houses to do the same. There is more risk on the commercial side for sure, but when the right deal comes around, I'm definitely jumping on it. And if the right deal came around today, I would be jumping on it as well. That's what I want to buy. Commercial flex space. We bought a retail building, 11,000 square feet of retail space. That one's doing good. We just put our second tenant in. We have one more tenant to go before we're not negative cash flow. So, but it's working out. I mean, we're hitting our timelines and we're actually under budget on that, surprisingly. I'll do another. Let me know if you guys want an update video on the strip center that we bought. Haven't made one over there in a while, other than the newest squatter video, which of course was at that property. Okie dokie. I'm late, but yeah, you're live. Jay Stoney, yes, sir. I'm still live, bro. We've been going for 2 hours and 18 minutes now. I appreciate anybody that's been watching this long. That's a long time to watch me talk. So I do appreciate you guys. Do you use an all-in-one loan? What are your thoughts? Yes, commercial financing. They fund the rehab. I stabilize. Then they perm me out, permanent financing, without having to do a refinance. Not very common. Surprisingly, I don't understand why it's not. But yeah, I do that for single family, multifamily, land deals, whatever I buy commercial financing. Katie, yes, I'm going to try and put this as a full YouTube video so you can watch this back. Yes. Can you make a video or explain how to tell if a fix and flip needs a heavy rehab or full demolition? David, what do you mean by heavy rehab versus full? When you say full demolition, are you talking about just getting rid of the house altogether? Okay, Jay Stoney, do you have any triple net leases for any of your commercial properties? If so, how was it like negotiating those terms, and what terms do you have in place? Yes, sir, we do. We have 4 leases that are triple net. And negotiating was a little different. We've got some mom and pop leases that we did. And then we also negotiated a triple net with what you would call an anchor national tenant. That one was a little bit harder. Thankfully, we had a broker on it, a commercial broker. And those guys didn't come to play. They had multiple lawyers. They redlined the crap out of the lease. And it took us like 3 or 4 weeks just to agree on terms of the lease once they were already just agree on verbiage. Pretty much the terms were already agreed upon. So commercial definitely moves a lot slower than residential does, but you have bigger swings. So like I would say commercial real estate is easier than single family because you're not making as many decisions. You're just making a lot heavier decisions. Like if you make a wrong decision on the commercial side, you have a lot more upside of losing money versus single family house. You have more forgiveness. Good question though, bro. Austin, listing your work while I'm working on the property inspired me to buy. Dang, dude, that's sick. I appreciate that, Austin. Your local handyman. Can a bird dog for you? Yes, sir, you can. Please do, bro. Bring me some deals. Oklahoma City Metro, under 350,000 ARV, fix and flip, buy and hold. If it's commercial, I'll buy up to $1 million. Apartment complexes, I'll look up to $2 million. Yeah, bring them. Let's check them out. If a fix and flip can still be rehabbed or needs to be completely destroyed and land used for new house. Okay, I see. So, David, most houses can be brought back to life. It's just a matter of how much you want to spend, and so it's going to depend on the market. But I don't necessarily love heavy rehabs. Like the heaviest that I've done is this tornado house that I did, and it had really good bones. Like if the bones are compromised, I'm just not that interested. There's an opportunity cost to buying those deals and taking forever at rehabbing them versus I can just go buy some medium rehab properties. You have a little less headache with those. So I prefer less headache over. That's something B actually came up with my wife is the headache factor. Like how much of a headache is this property going to be? Which I call opportunity cost. There's an opportunity cost to buying any deal. And so what is the upside is what I'm looking at. Just because a deal makes money doesn't mean that I actually want it because there might be too much headache. There might be an opportunity cost of buying that versus something else. You guys probably hear me talk about that quite a bit, but it is a fundamental that I watch pretty often. Okay, Sean, you're moving to Houston. It's a large city. To choose an area to focus on, what criteria do you recommend? That's a tough question, Sean. I don't know for sure, bro. I would say get hooked up with someone local, a local agent that really knows the area, and see if you can build a relationship and have them explain the economics behind all the different areas. Because I just have had the luxury of buying in Oklahoma City where I live, and so I've been able to learn this market. But I would take time. Don't be a motivated buyer and just take the time to learn the market. It's better to spend more time learning it. Spend 6 months, even if you have to, before you go buy a deal, just so you don't buy wrong. How important is it to work with a good real estate agent starting out and investing? If so, how would you find them? Dude, I would say knowing a good real estate agent is super important. Like if you knew me or if you knew someone on my team, here in Oklahoma City, you're going to get our off-market deals. And so that's a lot of leverage. You're also going to get the agents, like agents underneath me that can run comps, look at deals, tell you kind of what's up, refer contractors to you. So agents have huge leverage because they usually know a lot of people. And so I would say definitely focus on making a relationship with an agent. It's super important. Julia, good seeing you. Hope you're doing well. Can you talk a bit about how to negotiate with GCs, get bids, and how you get materials? Yes, ma'am. So I just looked the other day. We've spent, we're closing in on $600,000 on contractors this year, just contractors. And so I've learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot. I'm going to continue to learn a lot. But from what I found, I personally want to manage and kind of GC my own projects. I wouldn't recommend that. Obviously, I've done over 100 deals at this point, and I'm just now getting to that point. But for y'all, I I would interview multiple GCs. I would have multiple GCs look at your guys' projects because there's a lot of shady guys out there, unfortunately, and fewer solid GCs and just contractors in general. But they are out there. It's just a numbers game. So, for me, labor only. I'm only going to have GCs pay for, or I'm only going to pay GCs for labor. We're going to do an initial Lowe's bulk order. I use Lowe's and Amazon, and then maybe Floor and Decor. We're going to do an initial order up front to get all the materials. And then if they need anything mid-project, then they can go and do a phone sale at Lowe's. But I don't trust any contractors with my materials. That's every time I've lost money. And then you don't know what they're putting in your projects either, which is not good. But Julia, I have a 6-step contractor guide on my YouTube channel. Check that out. That will help you out quite a bit. Okay, Thrifty, Dallas here. I've had 2 flippers tell me average 5K for each major. I know that's variables, but 5K for foundation seems low. Dude, Thrifty, that's bad advice. No offense to those guys. I doubt they had bad intentions. You can't just average 5K. I mean, you can't even replace a roof for 5K barely unless it's a really small roof nowadays. Every house is specific. Don't try and just average it out. You need to get actual quotes, because I just had a structural engineer at a property I'm buying. It's going to be $18,000 in foundation, but I do have a lot that are only $4,000 in foundation. Every property is going to be different though. You have different sizes, different specs, different types of movement, depending on where it's at. So don't trust that advice, Thrifty. What is the largest and smallest fee that you personally paid to a wholesaler who has brought you a deal? I would say I pay 20, 30K to wholesalers. It's not super uncommon, multiple times a year. I would say on average, I probably pay 5 to 10K. And then smallest, probably 5K, somewhere in there. Like if my team brings me a deal, minimum 5K, I just try and pay them on every deal. BB, time and effort versus output. Damn, that's a good quote. Look, she should be on this live, really. She probably knows more than me anyways. Honestly, in certain aspects. B, my wife, by the way, is our design coordinator. And I just want to throw this out there that I may be good at finding the deals, but if I didn't have that design piece, we would suffer in this market probably, because I know that B knows how to design, and we bring some of the best product available to the market every time we list a property, which makes a massive difference. So you definitely have to know design. I know flippers that are good with numbers, and then they go put some really ugly fixtures and design, and it just their stuff sits because they look like everything else, or it's gray and it's not, it's like not comfortable. What can I be like? You are 6. What can I be like you at 16? Where to start, bro? Jay Muzzy. How can you be like me? You're 16, dude. Just learn. Have delayed gratification. You need to learn as much as possible. You need to have discipline, and you need to not chase shiny objects. If you want to get into real estate, do this for the next 5 years and you will be successful. Watch my videos, bro. Ask me any questions you've got. But just whatever you want to do, stick with it, because a lot of young dudes get shiny object syndrome, and they jump from trading to drop shipping to real estate to wholesaling to flip, and they never do anything good in life. No offense to those guys, but they just don't get far because they all make money. You just have to stick with one. Having a big real estate agent is a huge benefit, Elite, for sure. Do you ever buy in bulk for your materials? Yeah, we buy in bulk for all of our materials up front, and we get what's called a VSP, volume savings discount, from Lowe's. And so when you buy in bulk up front, you get that VSP, and dude, sometimes we save 20, 30% with that. Do you have a good email to send properties to? I'm new, looking to create generational wealth. I'm new to this. Brother, send them to my Instagram DMs. I'm scared of giving my email out because I don't want anything getting hacked. So send them to my Instagram DMs. I do check all my DMs. Can you explain how your team structure is set up for agents that work for you? How many agents do you have? What's their exact role? I have 9 agents. My team structure is this. If I provide a lead, it's a 50-50 split. If they provide a lead, If it's one of their leads, it's 70-30 split. I provide all mentoring. I provide all systems. I provide leads. I provide them the ability to buy deals with me. Nobody has the ability to buy deals with me outside of my business partner, Jimmy Green, or my team. I'm not buying deals with anybody else. And so that's kind of the leverage that they get is I don't just teach them how to go and buy and sell real estate. I also teach them how to help, or I don't teach them how to help others buy and sell real estate. I also teach them how to buy and sell real estate. So they get all of the upside of that as well. But yeah, that's how I structure it. We specialize in creative financing. Boom, here we are, Creative Homes Group. And we help people who can't buy or sell traditionally, buy or sell real estate. And we also help people who can buy and sell traditionally as well. But we kind of specialize. We're a one-stop shop for everyone. Zion. Cameron, quick question. I want to do a wholesale deal to get some funds in my bank account. I want to get some funds in my bank account. I'm able to do fix and flip because of my credit right now. Unable to do fix and flip. What would be your best advice? I'm in Georgia. Yeah, go wholesale some deals. Go bird dog for some people. It's less risk than wholesaling. So go find some big buyers in your market, bird dog for them, and you should be able to get some deals done that way. And that way you don't have to lock them up. Just come up to an agreement. If somebody came to me and said, hey, look, I don't want to lock deals. I don't have the means to buy them. If I find a deal for you, will you just make sure to price me in 10K? Most investors are going to be willing to do that if you find a deal. It's gravy for them. It's the cherry on top. Recession proof. How do you buy the properties? Do you get a loan, buy cash? Explain how. Commercial financing. And then once I post this recession proof, I talk about it on this live. So just go back. You'll be able to see kind of the terms. I also have a video, how to finance a flip. I think it's the second video I ever posted. You guys can check that out. Jay Sony says, shout out to BB. Shout out to BB. Zion says, I can do a deal anywhere though virtually. Yeah, sure, for sure. It's a lot easier to wholesale deals virtually, Zion, than to flip deals virtually. I've never done it. I wouldn't have much advice there. BB says, talk about dude logic flips. Yeah, so B calls these dude logic flips. Gray walls, subway tile, gray floors, 12 by 24 tile, basic granite, nickel hardware, nickel fixtures, boob lights. That's a dude logic flip. That's what B calls a dude logic flip. It's somebody that just because they can do a good rehab, they don't have any design. And then their property looks like the other 100 properties that are on the market. And they're sitting there wondering, why is my flip not selling? It's because there's nothing special about it. It looks like everything else. That's a dude logic flip in B's book. Okay, Dr. Bong, in the process of getting a GC license after you plan to get a home inspection license, while your sister is working on getting a real estate license, and then you're going to partner fix and flip duo. Nice, dude. I think that's great. Just be careful partnering with family. We talked about that a little bit. It does work. I know people that do it successfully, but it also can crash and burn as well. So just make sure that you guys have that understood up front in case things go south and you guys understand what the contingencies are. Simply, yes. Saw guy talking about putting effort in design and staging property after rehab before sell rates. Do you think a lot of people miss that, or is it common? Yes, most people miss the design piece. We don't stage any of our properties though. I don't think staging is necessary. I mean, we don't flip luxury properties, but I don't think that it's necessary. If you design correctly, your properties will sell. Hopefully this time next year, you'll be locking down properties. Nice, dude. Nice. Am I hiring? Here in Oklahoma City. So I'll tell you guys, I'm not necessarily looking for anybody, but I also don't want to pass up good talent. So if you guys are local, I would definitely be open to chatting. Jay Sony says, you love the Creative Homes Group. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Seriously. Yep, that is our team. Zion, send me DM. Yes, sir. Adrian says, how can you stand out when doing rehabs to avoid the dude logic flip? Okay, once you guys go look this address up, 4217 Maxine, Maxine Drive, Choctaw, Oklahoma. It's on Zillow. That is what That is the opposite of a dude logic flip. That's a flip that we're selling tomorrow. 4217 Maxine Drive. Take some pointers on that. Maybe if we can get enough comments, I might be able to get B on here at some point to talk about how to design, because I really don't understand the flow either, but she's got an eye for it. She's just naturally talented. How was your process / experience when you were personally learning about creative financing? Did you have any direct, indirect mentors? How long were you in the study mode before you pulled the trigger? Dude, no. I mean, my brother works for a company that seller finances land, so I was able to learn through that. So I would say yes, I had him as a mentor. But the creative finance deals we do primarily are with retail buyers, which is just different. And I just kind of learned through doing and learned through picking the brains of the people that own these businesses, the owner finance businesses, the lease purchase, picking the brains of brokers. I mean, I truly believe there's something that you can learn from anyone, whether they're homeless or not. And so like anybody I come in contact with, I just try and lower my ego and learn from them, because at the end of the day, if I'm the only one talking, then I'm not learning, like this, for example, I'm not going to learn, but I am bringing up principles that I will remember. And so that's one benefit to doing these as well. But just pick the brain of everybody you guys run into. I mean, that's my biggest thing. Ask questions. I even like to ask people, like if I'm just getting food or something, I like to ask them, instead of how's your day going, I like to ask, what's your favorite part about today? And then that kind of opens up for small talk, and maybe you can learn something there. What would be 2 ways you suggest I source distressed properties? How do I find the areas to look? Join your local buy, sell, trade Facebook groups. And then, dude, I still find a ton of deals like Maxine Drive, for example, that came straight off of MLS. That was straight off of Zillow. Everybody had access to that deal. We'll make 98,000 on that deal. And so don't sleep on market deals. They are there. You just got to be quick. But build relationships with other wholesalers and investors as well. Zion. Potato. Yes, sir. That's my tornado house, bro. White and gold looks nice. Thank you. We can thank B for that. By the way, the countertops on those, we got bent on those. They're supposed to be 3 cm, which is a little bit thicker. The granite or the quartz guy put 2 cm. We were out of town. I had my assistant look. It was not her fault. She didn't know we were supposed to have 3 cm. I paid the guy, and then it was just, he kind of screwed us over. So that's why those countertops are so thin. I would not usually do that on a flip like that. Make a video on your design processes. What materials to use, how to match things, and come out with something that's not overdone but stands above the rest. Yeah, because we really don't spend that much more on our design than I think anybody else. We just know how to do it correctly. B does. I say we, but it's really B. I don't know, B, are you willing to, if you're still watching this, are you willing to do a video on design? We'll see. Elite says the smartest man in the room is listening rather than talking. 100%, dude. 100%. Just sent DM on Instagram. Yes, sir. Picking the brain of everybody you run into. The best advice, bro. Advice is literally worth billions of value. Thank you, Sony. Thank you, bro. Love the bathroom vanity and light fixture in Maxine. Thank you. B came up with that. I mean, everything in there is B's doing. All the design, all the colors, everything. How much do you pay flooring per square foot with labor? Labor's kind of hard to price. I mean, dollar, if you can have labor only $1.50, that's pretty good in my book. And then per square foot, $2 or less. I don't like spending anything more than $2 $2. Don't do laminate. Go for luxury vinyl plank. It's a big difference. What's the best potato? I like this, dude. Changing it up a little bit. We've been talking about real estate going on 3 hours. We'll probably end this right at 3 hours. So I'll go another 20 minutes here probably. But okay. Best real estate food sauce. Chick-fil-A sauce, always pretty good. When I get Wendy's, I like ranch with the spicy nuggets. And then I don't know. I'm just not really a sauce guy outside of that. That's probably it. Local handyman says, bro, your wife be killing it. Need her here in Florida doing some flips. Hey, maybe she'll consult. She probably won't be cheap, though. I know she won't be cheap. I can tell you that. Thank you, though, bro. Was that legit? Was that guy legit? The homeless electrician, dude. So I cut out like 40 minutes of that video on that video just because it was so long, and we talked a lot. I think he was halfway legit, but I also felt like he was bullshitting me. Like there's one part in the video where he says the radiator gets stolen, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but I like was trying not to laugh because that sounded like something, and I hate to be prejudiced here, but it sounds like something I've heard from somebody that's been on drugs before. Like that's only something that's an addict would say typically, as your radiator, somebody walked off with your radiator when you were helping somebody move. I don't know. I could be wrong there. I think he was at some point somewhat of an electrician. I mean, he had the business card, but he did not follow through with sending. I told him I needed it quick. He didn't even follow up. He didn't follow through. He didn't tell me, hey, I'm still working on this. And so it just didn't work out with the guy. I wanted to give him an opportunity, but it didn't work out. Spicy nugget from Wendy's, go crazy, dude. 100%. They do go crazy. Can you write your buy box behind you on the board for anyone? Oh, dude, Sony. I forgot I had the whiteboard behind me. Yes, let's get it in there. All right. 350K. Okay, so this is for single family home. 350K. I mean, really, bring me anything under 350. I'll tell you guys if it's a deal or not, and I'll explain it, and it will help you guys learn. I don't want to write 70% less because really my buy box is different right here in Q4 than it will be Q1, Q2. So bring me anything under 350 that you guys think's the deal. I'll look at it. I'll tell you guys my thoughts. And then commercial, can you still see that? I'm going to be covering that up, aren't I? I'll write it right here. Commercial / multifamily up to 2 million. And then really I want value add or 9+ cap. 9% plus cap. That's very sloppy numbers. But yeah, bring me anything like that, y'all. Okay. Thanks, Tony was typing that. I got y'all. Nice stuff, y'all. Well, this has been a pretty good stream, y'all. If you guys keep having questions, then we'll keep rolling for another 20 minutes or so. Okay, here we got some more. Have you ever had someone not on your team bring you a creative financing deal? Yeah, for sure. I have people all the time. Bring me any creative finance deal. I will look at pretty much anything, y'all. I'm just picky. I'm a pretty picky buyer. I'll be upfront about it. But I'll still look at anything you guys have. Also, real quick, we got some people leaving. So I've got about 150 copies of these still from Hormozy's event. If anybody wants one, this is what I'm giving away today, especially for you guys plugging in. 100 Million Money Models doesn't pertain to real estate specifically, but it's a great book. You guys will learn a lot just about business in general. So shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll send you guys a link. You do have to pay for shipping. I think it's like $10, but you will get the actual physical book. So I already bought them. Any advice to not bite off more than you can chew on your first few deals? Potato, just make sure you got good reserves, bro. 20%. Okay, so you want to have your emergency fund, which should be 6 months saved up outside of your real estate investing fund. So have your emergency fund and make sure that you can float your interest-only payment and you can still float your personal expenses plus 20%, or not 20%, sorry, plus your down payment, plus any holding costs and closing costs, and a little bit of a contingency, and you should be plenty good, Potato. Nice. Simply, I'm glad that adds value. How much do you have sold on seller finance? I've got probably $1.5 million in seller finance notes that I've sold. I don't know off the top of my head really, but I've got quite a bit of deals that have been seller finance. Do you do creative deals? 100%. Send them my way, brother. I've never talked about this deal, or I haven't much. I've got a fourplex that I bought, 100% on seller finance. I think I put 20K down last year, and it is actually a pretty solid deal. 3% interest rate. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I do creative deals. How do you determine if you're going to cash out and keep it as a rental versus flipping and selling it? So, Rocco, it just depends. Like right now, I'm willing to take a little bit less of a return so I can hold more real estate at the moment. It makes a big difference for me for my taxes. But typically, I need to be cash flow positive. I need about a 20% cash on cash return, and I need 30% equity. If I hit those three, then I'm going to keep the deal. And if I can pull majority of my cash out, I don't want $30,000-$40,000 in a house. I want to be able to pull majority out. I'm okay leaving 5 or 10K though. It's not a big deal. Excellent stuff, Eddie. Thank you, bro. You've really watched this whole thing. Thank you, dude. Thanks for everybody that's watched. We've stayed pretty consistent. I mean, we still got 50 people on here. That's pretty impressive for a 3-hour stream. Like really, I will may have to do some more of these. Simply, Alex Hormozy has so many great quotes, dude. Alex Hormozy is the man. I mean, that's the benefit of just being in this generation that we're in right now is we get to watch and learn from dudes that have hundreds of $1 million, like Alex Hormozy. And so he's got some really good stuff. I eat and breathe his content. How much would it cost to add a bathroom, septic tank, plumbing system to a small house? David, that is going to depend on the market, but I can tell you adding a bathroom, I mean, I don't know. It's probably going to be, if it's it's going to depend if it's a crawl space or a slab. If it's a slab, you got to tear up the slab. If it's a crawl space, then you can go under the house. It's a lot easier to add supply and drain lines. So 5,000 to 7,000 to add a bathroom, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. For me, these are my numbers, y'all, just so you know. A septic tank, about 7,500 here in Oklahoma City. But septic tanks, what you got to look out for is the soil matters. You may not be able to add. There's two types of septic tanks. You have a conventional septic tank and you have an aerobic septic tank. Conventional septic tanks typically are going to be a little cheaper, but the cost is going to depend on what type of soil. So you need to get a soil test. For an aerobic septic tank, if the soil is not good enough, you got to go aerobic, or depending on what the requirements are in your municipality, they're a little bit more, maybe closer to like $10,000. And then what was that last? And plumbing system, dude, for a little 2-bed 1 house or 2-bed 1-bath house, I can usually replumb for like $2,500. That's supply lines. Drain lines are going to be different, but maybe like 3,500 for both. What are your favorite zip codes to buy or hold in? Dude, anywhere Oklahoma City metro. If it's 30 minutes, if it's Oklahoma City or 30 minutes outside the metro, I love all the areas. Usually don't watch live streams or podcasts for more than an hour. Can't believe I've been here for all 3. Dude, thank you. Have you guys enjoyed this in general? Because I feel like when I join a live stream, there's not enough talking. Like the dude or gal, whatever it is, they're sitting around and like just not saying much. And that's why I kind of get turned off from them. So I wanted this to be a little different. Maybe I've talked too much, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. As for the design video, maybe include determining what bulk materials to buy for your GC and working with ordering for the proper measurements in the kitchen or bathroom. Do you also buy plumbing? Determine what bulk materials. That's good, G. We can do that for sure. Rocco, you burn Tulsa. Hey, I'm going to get a photo real quick for Instagram, since we had a successful stream. Never know, I could have had 5 people show up. I would have been happy with it. So thank you guys. Electrical, lumber, or leave this to the subs. Okay, so electrical, leave that to the sub. Plumbing, typically leave it to the sub as well. Everything else I handle. Lumber as well, we handle. Do you have enough experience with your new team to say if you prefer them or working with a GC? Dude, so far I've really enjoyed our 3-man crew. They have been awesome. We're only 1 project in, but for example, we had to pull them off last week to go install 250 feet of chain link fence. I paid $1,200 for that. I don't think I could have done that for $1,200 had they not been on my team. And so it really helps when we have to pull and move to other projects for repair requests from buyers and stuff like that. Okay. How you guys are picking up. Okay. How is your house? hourly construction team working out for you compared to regular subs? Much cheaper on my construction team so far. We've had some management issues for sure. I mean, it's been growing pains. I'm going to make a video out of it. I just wasn't paying attention the first couple weeks, and they were just kind of doing whatever. Like, for example, they laid trim before flooring, which is, in my opinion, is like a big no-no. And I didn't catch it. I didn't tell, Logan, our project manager. And so that was just a waste. And so we've had a few learning curves, but it's not on them. That's on me as the leader taking ownership so I can correct the issue. And so we now have a standard, like, this is exactly what we're doing, a standard scope of work. We had a scope of work, but it was kind of messy. And we hired them right off the bat. And that project was just a little messy, but it's still going to come out good. I'll make a video on it here soon. Any areas in Oklahoma City Metro that you absolutely avoid? Dude, I will say Bethany, Oklahoma. I'm just not a fan of Bethany, Oklahoma. I don't know why. The vibes are not there. I mean, that literally could tell you outside of, I just don't like the vibe. I bought over there and I will buy over there, but I just don't like being over there in general. Nothing against anybody if you do live in Bethany, but it's just not very, I don't really like it. Dudes with no wives or girlfriends to help them with design. Download Pinterest and look up random stuff with design ideas. Makes it pretty dude proof. That's B. B, you should put a Pinterest board together for our dudes with no wives or girlfriends to help them out. What she's saying is dudes aren't good with design. Okay, great stream. Looking forward to seeing more in the future. Thank you, bro. Thank you, Simply. I tried to set my alarm, get up and watch this, but I slept in, so I got here late. That's okay, Potato. Thanks for joining, dude. Time has flown by with this live stream. John, it really has. We're 3 hours in, bro. You've been, I think this says your number 2 supporter in the chat. And then David's number 3 and Elite's number 1. So you guys are some dogs for asking great questions. Everyone's had great questions today. Jeremiah's didn't respond, so it's getting hotter in there. Dang it. All right, B, I'm going to call. I've got some other HVAC guys I'll call right after this. The more you show, the more you glow. Thank you, bro. I don't know what that means exactly, but I appreciate that. Like I said, you say educating specific information. You don't just look up you don't just yap like other YouTubers. Thank you, bro. That is my goal. And I hope I don't sound scripted. I shouldn't, because I don't script my videos, other than I've been trying to get a little bit better with my intros. I'm typically a one take guy. Like, once we start recording, that's the first take and only take that you guys see. And that's why I mess up a lot of my videos and stuff, but I'm just like, whatever. Eddie, thank you, bro. Oh, question for B. I have a question for you. I'm looking to do a remodel, Mediterranean style. Do you have any sites that you would, I love Mediterranean style. We don't have any of that in Oklahoma, really, but I love that style. I just got called out with the dude logic. About to listen the next week or two. Hopefully it doesn't sit. You'll be fine, bro. But trust me, your life will be much easier if you start getting away from the dude logic flips. In your defense, everybody, for the most part, does a dude logic flip. So you're not the only one. Can you go over zoning laws a little bit? Elite. So zoning is interesting. I'm not the most advanced with zoning, but typically every municipality is going to be different. You need to look at their code. And when you look at their code, they'll have zoning code, and you can go in there and you can see, okay, it'll say AG, agricultural. What allows for agricultural? It'll say R1, how much density and what is required for R1 zoning. What does it take to do R1, R2, R3, R4? Then they'll have C1, commercial one. And then you can look at what that is required. Then C2, C3, they'll have I1, I2, I3. So there are different zoning per municipality. The best thing I could recommend there, brother, because I'm still learning a lot too, through doing rezones and whatnot, is to read the zoning and then call the city and ask them, hey, I want to take this lot and I want to rezone it. And then if you look at their master plan and you look at the zoning around you, if there is similar zoning around, you probably have a pretty good chance at rezoning that. You have to go in front of the board, and then you have to go in front of the planning commission, and then typically they'll allow a rezone as long as nobody goes against it. So I'm located in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and looking to start investing. Do you have any tips to stay under budget and get connections with off-market sales? Yes, sir. Rewatch the beginning of this because we went through a lot of that towards probably the first 30 to 45 minutes of the stream. Pinterest and Instagram, B says, how do you pay yourself when you do your first few flips? How did you keep and invest? Um, Dude, Steven, I've never really kept a great budget. Me and B haven't. We don't live above our means, but at the same time, we just pay ourselves when we need cash. B B tends to draw out when she needs cash in our bank account. We share bank accounts, by the way. I know some couples don't, but we've just found it works for us. We share bank accounts. So yeah, we just kind of draw into our personal account when we need cash. It's probably not the greatest advice, Stephen, but for us, that's what's worked because we live really like below our means. We spend very little compared to what we make. The first few flips, we just spent even less. I mean, it was like bare bones. We lived in an $80,000 house. We kept our expenses down to like maybe 2,500, 3,000 a month. We've had some lifestyle creep since. We have a bunch of animals and we got my little brother and stuff like that. But we still, comparatively to what we make, spend quite not very much. So simply didn't know about Pinterest until your girlfriend introduced you. That's funny. Will the stream be saved? Yes, I'm pretty positive the stream's going to be saved. We got 5 more minutes. We're going to keep rolling. B says, I don't know if it's public, but the Pinterest I have is tough homes with the stuff I pick sometimes. Okay, you guys might be able to look at ours. Very, very much. Dude, Sony, thanks for plugging in, bro, and everybody else as well. That's what makes the videos good. They're raw and unedited. No one does that anymore. I appreciate that, y'all. Appreciate that, Jess. I should start listening to my girlfriend about the design. She's got an eye, but I just want to be boring. Dude, sneaker, 100%. Obviously, like, I got to reel B back sometimes a little bit. Like, hey, we're not going to spend $10 a foot for that tile. We need a tile that's like $3 a foot. But we find something within reason. But I bet your girl has really good design, sneaker. Big fan of you. Greetings from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks, Angel. Thanks, bro. From your knowledge, is Chicago, Illinois okay place to start buying real estate? Dude, I don't know Chicago that well, but I know Chicago is a big market with a lot of population. And I know for a fact people are buying and selling real estate there and people are making money on it too. So I'm sure you can make the deals happen. Eden, 19-year-old who's working on your real estate license. Would you give any advice if you got into real estate investing and share your experience? Yes, find a mentor, Eden. That would be my advice. And find a team. Since you just got licensed, find a team that provides leads, provides mentorship, and join that. Because even though you're going to pay money, you're going to learn a lot through being on a team that does a lot of deals. And so more deal flow is much better than less deal flow because you're going to learn a lot through that. Potato, I want to thank you for laying the path to get into real estate flipping. You've been so impactful, everyone here, and taken a lot of the fear of starting away from many of us. Yes, sir. Thank you, dude. Thank you, Potato. I appreciate that, bro. Howlin, here in California, doing ground up build in a rural area. The city required us to put sidewalk in at the street. What other hidden costs do you think are there for ground up builds? Dude, yeah, that is a headache. Really, you need to get with the city and you need to see what their requirements are. Every municipality has different requirements, but if you talk to the city planner, a lot of times they can tell you you're gonna have to put a lift station in, or you're gonna have to facade the entire exterior, or you're gonna have to do this, and so talk to the planner, talk to the city, and typically if you're working with them, they're gonna want to work with you and you can get those up front. But I don't have a ton of experience on ground up builds, so I don't want to tell you wrong, but that would be my recommendation. Have you heard anything about Louisiana markets, especially towards the bottom part like Baton Rouge, New Orleans? Simply, I have not, brother, other than there's good fishing out there. I know that, but outside of that, I don't know anything about New Orleans down there. It's a good question, though. Do I have a scope of work template that you could share? For the people on the live stream, I will share a scope of work template. So hit me up, DM me. I'll share it with you guys. Yes, I will. Do I use ChatGPT? Bro, I use ChatGPT often. Now, there's a problem. Like, you don't want to rely too much on ChatGPT because it can hallucinate. But I do use ChatGPT quite a bit. That's the only one that I use currently, like in terms of AI or LLMs. But yeah, dude, it's like having a superpower almost, having ChatGPT or just LLMs. I try and bounce a lot of ideas. Like even, we're going to Maui and we were planning on, I was trying to debate, should we stay at just one place or should we book 2 places? And I was asking ChatGPT, like, what are the pros and cons? It brought some stuff up I wasn't thinking about. And so just be careful trusting it for everything, but it can be a very good resource for sure. Okay. At what age? I'm 24. Sanad, will you send us that SOP you developed for your crew? What other tools and documents do you have that would help us? Company Cam I use, Flipper Force I use. I don't think you need either of those until you get to multiple deals at a time. So spreadsheets I've used for a long time up until this year. He wakes up talking to ChatGPT every. He's calling me out today. Golly, I do chat. I usually like in the morning I'm watching some chat or I'm talking with ChatGPT. Yeah, it's like an executive assistant for sure. LMAO. He's calling me out. All right, y'all. I'm gonna answer 4 or 5 more questions, and then we're gonna call it. So let's see what else you guys have. Ask me anything, and then we're gonna jump. Thanks again for joining. We've maintained above 50 people this whole time. Do you ever come to Texas? Dude, yeah. We go to Galveston sometimes. I like Texas. Fishing down here is different. I bet it is simply. Texas fishing. Dude, I like fishing anywhere. Oklahoma fishing's all right. We've got largemouth bass and stuff, but outside of that, I'm going to do some fishing in Maui. If I catch anything, I'll be posting some photos. What's your favorite fish? Dude, I really want to catch a tarpon. I hooked up on one in the Keys. No guide. Hooked up on one, and it broke us up. End on fishing. Okay, we'll end on fishing. Yeah, so I hooked up on a tarpon. It broke us off. I like the Keys a lot. Like Colton, who's on my team, he's in the other room. He came down to Keys with us. Dude, Colton has caught more fish out of anybody that I've ever met. He is coming to Maui with us. And so I think that we're going to have some good luck out there. But we're going to do some kayak fishing. And, in Maui, like it drops off 2,000 feet, a quarter mile out because of how they were formed, like they're big volcanoes almost. And so you can catch tuna out in Maui just a quarter mile off. And so I hope that we hook up. I either want to hook up on a massive shark or I want to hook up on a massive fish in the kayak, and I want it to drag me around is the goal. Dude, Florida fishing some of the best for sure. All right, y'all. Oh, anybody in general is interested in sending you a property. Do you prefer the property already be under contract? No, I'm not going to snake anybody. My brand, my reputation, and my morals matter more to me than me trying to snake a deal from any of you guys. I've got plenty of deal flow. So if you send me a deal and you don't have it under contract, I promise I will respect that. I will tell you what I would lock it up at, and I will let you chase that lead and hopefully bring it back to me. But yeah, if you guys don't have a deal under contract, that's no problem at all. Just bring it to me. It would be a really bad look if I went and tried to snake a deal with the brand that I'm building. And that's just not the guy that I am. I value relationships because if you bring me a deal, you'll hopefully bring me more in the future. All right, we're going to end at that. Thank you guys. Hope you all have a great day. Thanks for joining on a Sunday. And I got a video coming up this week. So I'll catch you guys later.